is suing his niece, 21-year-old telemarketer Bettina Saraceno, for unpaid rent and attorney's fees.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. Good day. Thank you. Your Honor, this is case number 13 on the calendar in the matter of Saraceno versus Saraceno. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Saraceno, you are currently the trustee and I assume the executor of your mother's estate. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that was relatively recent circumstance because prior to that, your brother was the trustee and executor of her estate. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
When did your mother pass away?
She passed away on November 10th, 1998.
It was October 10th.
Or October 10th, I'm sorry.
When your mother passed away, one of the things of value in her estate was a house. Your claim is that the defendant, who is your niece, is living in the house, refuses to pay rent, and refuses to move out of the house.
That's correct.
You are suing her for $1,500 for rent. Is that right?
Yes, I do.
For what months, sir?
I became the trustee on January 10th, so I would want fair rent from January 10th to the present.
When did you first advise her that you wanted her to pay rent?
The beginning of February.
In January, you didn't tell her you wanted rent.
No, I did not.
He's never told me.
Shh. Did you tell her how much rent you wanted?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
How much did you tell her?
$400 a month.
And what did she say when you told her you wanted $400 a month?
She had talked to her father,
Who was your brother?
who is my brother. She told me that he did not say that she had to pay rent and that she could live there without paying rent.
Okay. How old are you?
21.
What do you do?
I'm a telemarketer.
How much do you make a week?
400
How long have you been a telemarketer?
for like 2 months.
What did you do before that?
I did home care for elders.
Who else lives in the house?
My aunt and my cousins,
How many cousins?
2.
Your aunt, is that your sister?
Yes.
Does she pay any rent?
No, she does not, Your Honor.
Is that with your permission?
Not expressly, but as to this point, that would be fine, yes. I don't have a problem with that.
Is there any reason why you want your niece to pay rent?
Because the house has certain bills and obligations. It has taxes that it has to pay.
Why would, I'm just curious, why would you allow your sister and her children live there rent-free and not allow your niece to live there rent-free?
Because my sister has a drug habit, okay? She doesn't have anywhere else to go. The only other alternative is to put her out in the street, and I just don't have the heart to do that at this time.
And
Shh, I'm not finished yet. Well, you may not have the heart to do that, but you can understand why your niece says, why should my cousins be allowed to live rent-free in the house, and I not be allowed to live in the house rent-free when my aunt could work just as well as I can. She's a lot older than I am. She could work. And my uncle is letting his sister and her family live there rent-free. I love my grandmother, too. Why can't I live there?
That's a very good question. I have a very good answer, Your Honor.
I'm ready for you, sir.
The reason is she just recently moved into that house a couple of weeks ago. Before that time, she had her own house
Who's
that she
she?
was living in.
Who's she?
My sister Carmela. She had her own house that she was living in, adjacent to my mom's house, and she was living there rent-free.
Your sister was living in another house of your mother's rent-free?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sell that house?
No, it's still in the trust.
Well, is there another tenant in there?
Yes, there is.
So you put a paying tenant in that house that more than covered the expenses on that house.
No, Your Honor.
Why don't you sell the other house?
There's a lot of legal fees. There are bills that have to be paid. There's a $6,600 electric bill that needs to be paid on my sister's house.
Why didn't she pay it? What are you taking that out on your niece for?
I am not complaining about that, Your Honor. I am just stating that her house cannot be sold because of that.
Because of an electric
Carmela's
bill?
house, my sister's house, yes.
It's not your sister's house. You said it's part of the trust.
None of them have been divided yet. She will get a share of that property.
Are the grandchildren mentioned as beneficiaries of the trust?
Teresa and Saraceno.
But 2 grandchildren, but not the defendant.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to take a look at your papers as trustee.
Okay.
Property.
There you go.
Okay. Now, Ms. Saraceno, I have just a few questions for you. Do you work as a telemarketer every day?
Yes,
What do you work hours?
9 to 5.
And you work Monday through Friday.
Yes,
What time do you usually get up to go to work?
at 7 o'clock.
And you report directly to work?
Yes.
What do you do after work?
I come home and I make sure my cousin does his homework, and I make sure that his clothes are clean for the next day, and then I cook dinner.
You do that 5 days a week?
Yep. Yes.
The reason I ask these questions, which seem rather odd, even to Bird, right?
Yes.
Under the circumstances, is that this is your claim. You claim in your answer that your grandmother's will states that any member of the family, the Saraceno family, who continually puts flowers on her gravesite every Thursday may reside in the residence after her passing rent-free. That's what you say. And that is the basis of your defense.
Yes, but
Okay?
I have this
So let
as-
me see that clause in the will.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Saraceno says his niece, Bettina Saraceno, owes for unpaid rent. Bettina says the house belonged to her late grandmother, and it was her wish that she live there, rent-free.
This doesn't talk about you. You're not Teresa, you're Bettina.
But also right here, I have the,
This talks about 2 other grandchildren,
yes, I know.
not you.
This one I have right here, where it's highlighted.
Well, this doesn't say anything about placing flowers on your grandmother's grave every Thursday,
The
madam.
other, I know.
Doesn't say anything about that. All right, so that's not a defense. And this section that you're talking to me about says that the trustee has the right to sell the property, let somebody else live there, rent it. So it's within your uncle's discretion whether or not you can live there. You understand that?
Yes.
So there is no defense to this action. You have to either pay rent or he told you to move, which is
He's-
very unfortunate.
He's-
I mean, which is really very unfortunate, because I really think that you're being unfair and inequitable unless there was some reason you would think that your mother would not want this grandchild to have any benefit from her property. Is there any reason?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is that?
The defendant has a drug habit.
So does your sister.
They both do, yes. And to be honest with you, I would want both of them out. But she doesn't pay rent. She doesn't do nothing. I told her to leave, and she would not do it, Your Honor.
You
I
didn't
asked
answer my...
her to
Just a
leave,
second. You didn't
and she
answer
did.
my question, sir. I'm asking you a question. I expect... Just a second. I'm not going to need this witness. She can step outside. If she needs water, go... Madam, do you need water? Do you need water?
No.
Go outside. Go outside. Don't cough here. Go, 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 go.
Your Honor, ask the question
I'm-
again. I will answer it.
Maybe you'll understand it better if I ask it to you this way. Did your mother have a relationship with the defendant?
No.
You didn't see her?
Very rarely.
Yes, she did.
How rarely is very rarely?
Maybe once every 3 months.
And what about your sister's children? They lived right next door.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did your mother ever give you any indication that she was aware of your sister's drug habit?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I live right across the street.
Listen, there is no question in my mind that your uncle is being unreasonable. He would not be unreasonable were he not to have permitted his sister, who he says is a drug addict, and her 2 children to live in the home rent-free. But he is the trustee of this estate. It is his prerogative to tell you to move. That's his prerogative. I don't believe that you had an arrangement with her for rent. You didn't even become trustee until January 10th. And you did not tell her until February that you wanted her to pay rent. Is that
Correct.
right? And there was never an agreement to pay rent by her with you.
And
Correct.
He didn't tell me he wanted...
Shh. Listen, you're not losing, right? So there was never an agreement for her to pay rent. So what you have to do, Mr. Saraceno, is proceed with eviction proceedings against your niece, if that's what you wish to do, because absent a lease, either an oral lease, which you can have month to month, or a written lease, there is no contract, and therefore there is no contract that this court can enforce. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We just have friends come over, that's it.
It's like one big crack house, you know?
Hansett Birch is suing her ex-fiancé, 37-year-old maintenance supervisor Bruce Bartline, for an unpaid loan for attorney's fees.
Come to order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 443 on the calendar in the matter of Hansett Bush versus Bartline. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Miss Birch, you and the defendant, according to your complaint, lived together for approximately 4 years?
That's correct.
And during that time, it is your claim that you loaned the defendant approximately $1,950 in order to pay an attorney for some sort of custody dispute with his ex-wife.
That's correct.
The defendant says that he paid back some of that money, approximately half of it, and that the rest should be your responsibility because each of you wanted the children, his children, together with you as a family, so that you should be responsible for half of the bill. Is that your defense, sir?
Not entirely, but yes.
In what month and year did you have to retain an attorney?
I actually don't know exactly what you're...
Miss Birch, when was it?
It was in November right after Thanksgiving, and I'm not sure if it was 99 or 2000 because this attorney bill had been sitting there. It was a large bill. We kept getting phone calls. I go, look, why don't I just use my good credit because he had already been bankrupt. We'll just pay it off this way and
Your
be
Honor,
done with it.
Shh, don't speak.
And
we'll just pay it off this way.
Pay it
yes.
off this way. I put it on a Discover card for 3.9% interest.
And what did he say?
He said, well, I can't believe you're going to do that and help me out. And I said, no, you know, we're living together. Let's just do this to get your finances in order because we already had taken care of his bankruptcy and other
Ms.
bills.
Birch, so what you said to him was, let's just get this taken care of.
Get this taken care of. I'll loan you the money. Just take it.
No, that's
Let's
the
be
first time
done.
you said the word loan. You
And
never
when
said,
he moved
shh,
out...
Miss Birch, don't interrupt me. When did you discuss with him that it was a loan?
Right after we did the phone call, and then I was very nervous.
What phone call?
To the Discover card. I cooked it up that way. It was a brand new balance transfer. I called, go, can you do that on attorney bills?
Tell me when you discussed with him paying you back.
Oh, we discussed it right away. Are you going to take care of this? When he moved out, that was my first concern. Are you going to make good on this?
On what date did you do this? It's important. Was it 99 or 2000?
November 5th, 2000.
And he moved out when?
January 5th, 2001.
So immediately after you did this with the attorney's bills, practically immediately, he moved out.
That's correct.
So it was just 2 months later.
And we were dating each other for about 6 weeks, and then he was paying during that time, and then suddenly he stopped paying, probably after I married his best friend.
It's possible. Okay. That's
I married
possible.
him April 8th, and May was his last payment.
May I see the payments that he made?
You
please?
sure can. Here's where it was put on an attorney bill. Here's a photo of the attorney.
Listen. I
here's
asked you
the
for one
200
thing.
payments.
Miss Birch, listen to me. I asked you for one thing. Don't give me a piece of the yellow pages. What I asked you for was a list of the payments that he made after he moved out.
They're highlighted on the top right here.
Let me see, please.
He would drop off a check, and then he mailed 2 of them. And I took them down to Sears because Sears will take Discover card payments, and since I was paying the interest on it at that time,
10. So he paid $1,000.
paid $1,200 payments.
So he owes you $950.
Correct.
Okay, now I'll hear you.
I dispute her statement that she says that her and I discussed it and then she took action putting this on her card. I came home from work one day and she had put it on her card. Okay?
You
and
were
I did make
with me.
Listen, Miss Birch, do not speak. You had your turn. If I want an answer, I'll come back to you. Do you understand?
Correct, I do.
Good.
I did make payments. There's also a phone bill for $3.09, and I wanted to make good on that. I don't dispute
Good.
that.
I wasn't even paying attention to that. But that's nice.
The attorney fees were directly associated with Ms. Hansett Birch. She's alleged to have been abusive to my children. And
Were they living with the two of you at the time or just visiting?
yes, they were shared custody is what it was.
Was your former wife happy about that?
No,
So she made an allegation that Miss Birch was abusing your children.
not necessarily an unsubstantiated allegation, but an allegation, yes.
Did she lose the case?
Yes, she did.
Who has
but she lost
custody?
it on
Shh. Who has custody of your children?
shared custody.
So
She
you
has
still
primary.
have. So she has primary custody of the children. Was that the way it always was? She had primary and you had shared,
yes,
so that the status quo remained.
Yes.
And she tried to have that amended in some way.
She tried to remove the children away from Beverly's residence on the allegation of abuse.
When was that, sir? When was that
I have
initiated?
When
was it initiated?
Shortly after Thanksgiving
Of what year?
Of 99.
So it was a long time before you finally separated.
Yes, considerably a long time.
And the matter had been ultimately resolved, of course, long before you separated.
Yes.
All I want you to do is talk to me about the discussion that you had, sir, with regard to the attorney bill.
Directly after I came home, she told me she put it on her Discover bill. We had discussed it before. I didn't say, yeah, do that, or we didn't make any kind of agreement. There's no...
What had you discussed before?
She discussed it as an option.
She doesn't have a discussion alone.
Right. She discussed it with
you.
me as an option to put it on her credit card.
And what did you say?
Well, then I didn't see any reason why I couldn't just continue making payments to the attorney as I was.
And how much were you paying the attorney?
As much as I could.
Much as I could is not an answer. So you were paying him in dribs and drabs.
I wasn't. I was paying him pretty quick. $4,000 is a lot of money.
All right. Now, I see that you made $1,000 worth of payments, sir, that stopped in June of 2001, right? Tell me why you stopped making the payments.
Well, one of the reasons why was I received a bill from Beverly. It was seeming kind of petty in some of the other small areas of dollars. And then it's like, well, why am I paying all this? If it was not for her, I probably wouldn't have even had to go to court in the first place.
That's what you said. Just a second. That's what you said to yourself.
Pretty much,
you said,
yeah.
self, I said, if it wasn't for the fact that I was living with Beverly, I wouldn't have had this problem with my ex-wife in the first place, so she should really be responsible for half the bill. That's what you said to yourself.
No,
I just want to know. That's what you just told me.
I agree to that, but her actions helped initiate this case against me, therefore necessitating the need for an attorney. She would have, as a matter of court record, that children were removed from her house as a result of abuse.
Mr. Bartline, you know, if I had my children in somebody else's house and I believed that that other person abused them, I would take my children and flee. Your argument suggests to me, and the timing of this suggests to me, that there was an allegation by your ex-wife that you could not believe was true because you continued to live with the plaintiff, continued to live with her, with your children ultimately coming back to visit with you. How could you do that as a parent? How could you do that as a responsible parent?
I did not
I'm speaking, Mr. Bartline. If you actually believed that the plaintiff did anything to harm your children. Think very carefully about how you answer that, Mr. Bartline.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Beverly Hansett Birch says ex-fiancé Bruce Bartline owes for an unpaid loan for attorney's fees. Bruce says Beverly is partly responsible for that bill.
Go ahead.
I did not make the allocation of abuse.
I understand that. You're not following what I'm saying, sir. What you suggested to me is it's her fault that you had to deal with this attorney anyway, because your suggestion is that she was, in fact, abusing your children in some way. And if a parent permits that to continue, they shouldn't have any sort of visitation with their children, past, present, or future. So this fantasy in your mind that she did, in fact, abuse your children, which resulted in all of your fears and woes and all of your attorney's bills, is a crock of crap. Because if it wasn't, then you're a bad father. You don't want me to think you're a bad father, do
Your
you?
Honor, I'm not a bad father.
Good.
And
Judgment
no,
for the plaintiff in the amount of $950. Pay her the rest of the money you owe her. That's all. Thank
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't know when they got married or whatever.
I can't believe he didn't know that I had married his best friend.
I wish them the best of luck, okay?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Anderson versus Magana, step forward, please.
48-year-old salesperson Amy Anderson is suing her brother, 48-year-old postal worker Lee Magana, for the return of their late mother's belongings.
Mrs. Anderson, the defendant is your brother.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, the defendant either stole, destroyed, gave away property that belonged to your mother.
Correct.
That was supposed to be shared with all the siblings after she passed away. So you're suing him.
Yes,
You lived with your mother for about 20 years.
correct.
How old was she when she passed away?
75.
Had she been in good health?
Up until the last 3 years when she was diagnosed with cancer.
How many siblings do you have, sir?
7, 8 counting me.
And was your mother at home during the last 3 years of her illness?
Yes, she was.
Who took care of her?
I did. Me and my nephew, Lee Michael.
And what about the plaintiff? How often did she come and take care of your mother?
They would visit. They didn't take care
How
of her.
often?
She probably came about once, maybe twice a
Twice
week.
a month, because I live in Camarillo, and it was.
And how far a trip is it?
It's not by far, but you know, I'm a married woman. I go to work, come home, and I live with my husband's mother, who has Alzheimer's, and I also was taking care of her, which still am, and had a nurse there. So I was dealing
Your mother-in-law?
My mother-in-law.
Miss Anderson, so it would be fair to say for the last 20 years, your brother lived in the house, which was your mother's house,
Correct.
with your mother.
Correct.
The last 3 of which she was terminally ill. Your brother lived with her.
Correct.
Fine. And when she passed away, according to your complaint, you and your siblings decided that the house should be sold.
Correct.
That was against my mom's wishes.
Just a second.
Okay.
Well, didn't you understand that this had been his home for 20 years?
It was all of our homes.
No, it wasn't. You just told me you live at home with your husband and his mother, who has Alzheimer's and an aide and a whole bunch of other people. It was his home. Didn't you, any of you feel badly about saying to him you have to move out of your home?
May I bring my-
I'm not talking to you. Are you another sibling?
Yes, I am.
When I want you, I'll call you. Don't you feel badly about saying to your brother, you have to sell the house, we have to sell the house because you want to split the money?
No, because when we went in there right after my mother died, we all sat, my brother from New York came down, and we talked, the house is going to be sold. And he said, well, I need time to grieve. I said, well, fine, that's no problem. He lived there a year. We didn't kick him out right away, a year.
I didn't say kick him out right away. I was talking about kicking him out at all.
No, I didn't feel bad.
Well, you should have. You should have. It had been his home for 20 years.
Well-
And the last 3 of which, while all of you were taking care of your own lives, he was living there taking care of your mother.
We were taking care of my mother.
No, you weren't. You just told me you were there twice a month. What did you do for the rest of the time?
When she became very ill, me and my sister went and bathed her, took her, and everything at home.
At their home. You didn't say bring her to my home. You left her at home with your brother, who took care of her 24/7. You may have come by occasionally to take care of her, but it was his primary responsibility. So it would seem to me that instead of selling the house that he had lived in for 20 years, you would have said, thank you very much. We were all very busy, including my brother in New York, and we couldn't take care of Mommy. You did. You want to stay in the house, stay in it for as long as you like. But instead, you decided to sell it. So you and your siblings decided to take him to court, right?
Correct.
And you got a forced sell order. And now what you're suing him for is because you say when you went there after the house was sold, you went in and you found a lot of things missing.
He took everything in the house, gone. Everything he couldn't take, he destroyed. He destroyed my mother's whole backyard, her flower plants damaged, the stove damaged. He did cut wires. I have pictures and everything of this.
I'll take a look at the pictures.
And
I'll take a look at the pictures.
this is this damage he did.
Assuming he did this kind of damage to the house. Let's assume that that's correct. So what do you want?
I mean, I have a list of all what I want.
Well, let me take a look at it
It's
now.
not much.
Let
And
me take a look
may
at
I
it.
also bring my
$5,000.
defendants up to here, my sister, my witness,
For what?
to speak? You know, I don't want the money. I just want the petty little, it was to remember my mother from my brothers and sisters.
You say you want the following thing. All of your mother's pots and pans and bakeware.
Yeah.
All a sewing machine and all sewing materials.
And that belonged to my sister.
Nothing belonged to your sister that's in the house. Did your mother die with or without a will?
Yes,
She had a will.
Was it probated?
No.
No.
Was not. Why not?
They were trying to force the sale of the house. I had
Let me
to
see the
split
will.
it up.
Just curious.
I've highlighted some of the things in mine also.
Let me just take a look at this. Well, the first thing that your mother says in her will is that she gives the house to you and to your brother, and if it's decided that it's to be sold, then all the children share in it.
Correct.
Well, he didn't want to sell it. So how did it come about that you had forced a sale? That was against your mother's wishes.
Majority vote.
That was against, just a second, that was against your mother's wishes. This says that your mother wanted you and your brother to have the house only if you all decided that you didn't want the house anymore, was it to be sold. So why did you go against your mother's wishes?
It also says that, I think
They were on the deed, Your Honor. Can I explain how they were put on the deed? And they forced the sale on it because they were all put on the deed.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
When were they all put on the deed?
And my father passed away in 1982, After he passed away, my brother had an attorney friend, but had my mom sign a deed also, all into our children's name. We did not find out that the names were put on the deed till 1988, when my mom was in the hospital. We wanted to get a loan, and we couldn't get one.
I see, because this will was executed in 1988. Now I understand how they did it. I gotcha.
May I, Your Honor, may I bring my sister up and speak with me also?
Sure.
My witness?
Your Honor.
What?
My brother did not live with my mother the full 20 years. He got married, moved out of the house, and then when they decided that they couldn't pay their bills, they moved back with Mom. Lee has never paid my mom's bills. My mother paid her own.
I didn't ask her about paying
bills. But let me tell you.
I didn't ask about paying bills.
But how can you... Anyway, Lee now has a relationship. During my mother's sickness, he had a relationship with his new girlfriend, and he would spend part of the time there. And as far as that deed being signed, my mother asked my brother Ponto, that lives in New York, and myself to take her and have all our names put on the will. And I says, Mom, are you sure?
Listen to me, madam. If that was done in 1982, then there was something wrong with your mother in 1988, because in 1988, she treated this property as if it was hers in her will.
If you knew my mother, you'd know.
I don't have to know your mother. I'm listening to your scenario. Listen to me. Your brother wrote this will. He would have left the house to himself. Instead, he left the house to you and him, to the two of you. If you are suggesting that he wanted to have a criminal intent to try to deprive you of property, he would have deeded the house just to himself after your mother died.
He was.
So, baloney. Baloney. Listen, I just looked at this will. It doesn't say that you're entitled to any of these things. I think that you people behaved very badly. How much did you sell it for?
$205,000.
$205,000. So each one of you got how much?
$23,000.
So you're not talking about a change of lifestyle money?
No, no.
Well, if that's true, and if your brother wanted to live there, and he had lived there, let us say, during the past 3 years, and I don't know what kind of a good son he was or a bad son, but it would seem to me if you two ladies thought that your mother was being neglected by your brother, you would have taken your mother out of her house and brought her to your house.
I never said that.
Fine. So if he wasn't neglecting her, then he was taking care of her. And if he was taking care of her, all the siblings should have waited a little bit, especially since it was your mother's intention that he remain there for as long as he wanted to. You could have remained there for as long as you wanted to.
He wouldn't let us in.
You didn't want to live there.
No, I didn't, but I have
You didn't want to live there.
Correct.
You've got a husband and a mother-in-law that you take care of. You didn't want to live there. So because you didn't want to live there, you threw him out. As far as I'm concerned, that was the wrong thing to do. And if you're asking me then to invoke this court's equity power about seeing that you get some things that belong to your mother because everybody behaved right, I don't intend to do it. You sold the house, enjoy it. You got $23,000. That's all you're going to get. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That's okay.
Judge Judy
I think it is all about money and stuff. If they wanted something, all they had to do was ask me.
He knows the truth, and he knows that what went on in there wasn't the truth.
What they did was wrong.
He took advantage of my mother. He not only robbed her monetarily, he robbed her soul.
My mom's wishes were never carried out.
I'd like my brother to grow up.
I tried my best to do what she wanted.
44-year-old landscaper Nick Smoljan for the return of her son's belongings and for the cost of travel expenses.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 432 on the calendar in the matter of Hoffman versus Smoljan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Hoffman, the defendant is your former husband, and this case involves your son. Is this your son?
Yes.
What is your first name?
Eric.
How old are you, Eric?
15.
Unless I need Eric as a witness, I'm going to ask Eric to step outside. Can you do that for me, Eric? When I need you, I'll call you.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Your Honor, I think it's really important that you do speak with Eric. We are here because he couldn't let go of this stuff that it was at his dad's house.
Listen to me. It's never a good idea to put a child in the middle of a controversy.
I understand.
Ever.
I understand that.
I don't care what it's about.
I understand.
The child has two parents. It's not his fault that the two parents aren't together anymore. So you keep a child out of court at all costs. Unless there's some issue of abuse, you don't bring a child into a system. You and the defendant have one child, I assume, together?
No, we have two.
How old is the other child?
11.
Lives with you?
Yes.
There was a time that Eric lived with his father.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did Eric live with you?
He lived with me last year for a school year.
Okay. And that was because you were having some trouble with him, Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
You were having some difficulty? Is Eric in special classes?
No, Eric's not. He wanted to live with his father since his dad left.
Okay.
He's made life
difficult.
Very.
Whatever it was, he wanted to live with him, so he went to live with his father for the year. And then for the summer, he was coming home, and at the end of the summer, you sent him back to his father. And this case involves the fact that you claim that his father refused to take him back after the summer. He not only refused to take him, he was not there at the airport when Eric arrived at the airport. He had to scurry around. You had to get a plane ticket for him to come back. What are you shaking your head no for? This is what your case is about.
I'm sorry. Yes.
That's what this case is about. You want to be reimbursed for the extra travel expenses because his father wasn't there, for the cost of parking your car at the parking lot.
That was a secondary reason.
Well, that's what this is for. And the return of Eric's personal property.
The personal property was the thing that Eric couldn't let go of.
Fine, so you're not seeking any travel expenses or
That's
anything?
fine. It would be nice to have the money that I didn't spend back again. But this was because Dad didn't send his things back like he asked. The last time Eric saw Dad, he hugged him and said, "I'll see you in 3 months, son."
So you're not interested in that. You just want what you say is Eric's property.
I want Eric to have some closure, yes.
Okay. Mr. Smoljan, I assume from reading your answer that after the summer, you, and is this your wife?
Fiance.
Fiance. You live together?
Yes, we do.
Decided that Eric was too much to handle?
Yes.
And you decided that he should not come back?
Yes.
When did you communicate that to the plaintiff?
Well, 2 weeks prior to Eric going to Portland, where I wasn't there to get him because I was up hunting, I got a phone call stating that they were at an airport. They were going to send Eric. So I called the airlines and said, "Do not send Eric, that physically I can't take care of him anymore because I have seizures." And so they didn't let him on the airplane.
This was 2 weeks before?
Yes.
May I interrupt?
Not yet.
Okay.
I stopped the airline at that time.
Fine, and then 2 weeks later he got on a plane?
Right, with no knowledge at all. If I did, I would have been there. So,
when you let Eric leave your house to go to his mother's for the summer, I assume he left some stuff there.
yes, he did in our garage. No.
That's the stuff that Eric wants.
Yes.
Tell me what it is.
Well, I brought a bag that was Eric's, and there was some clothing. We sent him a Pokemon game, and I think that was in it too.
In where?
In the paperwork that's stating that that's what he was suing for.
Right.
We sent that back because he said he lost it on the airplane. Well, we did have it at the house. We did send that to him. So basically it's the clothes, the bag, what was in the garage.
Let me see what his mother says was left.
The travel
Well,
expenses.
let's go through
This
it.
is a list he made himself.
Okay.
And he
Can't
put
always
the
rely.
dollar estimate on there. I have
He can't always rely on what the child tells you. All right. So let's see.
He's 15. He's very articulate. He's very smart
Clothing.
kid.
So you have some clothing.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Okay. What about throw-over blanket?
I
he's
don't
talking
have
about?
the blanket.
Do you know what it is? You know what he's talking
It's a
about?
Pokemon blanket, I think.
And you don't have it?
No, I don't have it on me today, Your Honor.
No, that's not what I asked you, whether you have it with you today. I asked you if you have it at the house.
I don't have it because it was in a garage, and when I did look, this was all that was there.
He has here amount of money owed, $62. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, he also got birthday money, and he said that they borrowed it for some cigarettes and other things.
Did he have any birthday money that he got while he was in your care?
Yes, he did, Your Honor. What we did is, to give Eric the money back, we took him to shows, we took him places, and that's the way we gave his money back to him at the time.
You went together as a family?
Yes, family
All right.
thing.
You have to give him back that $62. When you take a child to a movie or to a game or to
That's
bowling,
right.
you pay for it.
Okay.
What about a wrapped collector promo Pokemon card?
I have no idea on a Pokemon card.
A Game Boy Color unit?
That was the one that I think we did send back. My witness here, my fiance, if she could stand up, she knows quite a bit about this too.
Well, stand up and tell me where the Game Boy is.
Okay, the Game Boy was an instance in the evening. I was away in California. I got a call.
Where is it?
It should be in the garbage, ma'am. It was broke because Eric refused to put it away when he was told to.
And what happened to it?
And his father took it out of his hands, and it slipped out of his father's hands and went onto the floor. At that time, the screen was broke on it.
Okay, so it's not that you don't have it, it's that you broke it, sir.
Yes,
See,
sir.
look how smart she is. You're terrific. All right, so you're home for Game Boy.
Yeah.
Sega game system and 5 titles. Do you know about a Sega system?
Sega System came up with him from California, but it's nowhere around us. I have no clue. We bought him a Nintendo 64 because the Sega wasn't adequate enough for him. From October until June, I have no clue what he did with his game now.
Where is the Nintendo 64?
He took it home with him
He
to
did?
his mother's, yes.
You have the Nintendo 64?
The only Nintendo 64 that's at our house was the one that had been there.
You have a Nintendo 64?
We have one. We have
Good.
one.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She didn't send everything back when she sent him home if there was no intent
listen
for him
to
to
me.
be back.
Stop with the nonsense. This is nonsense here, madam.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Suzanne Hoffman says ex-husband Nick Smoljan owes for travel expenses because he didn't show up at the airport to pick up their son. Suzanne also says Nick refuses to return their son's belongings.
Personal journal? Did you find the journal?
No. We cleaned out his room thoroughly. There was just a bunch of garbage left in
What
it.
about family photos?
I have seen family photos that he had.
Do you know where those are?
No, ma'am, I don't. If I did, I would definitely give them to him.
Of course you would. Could you take another look for them?
I certainly will.
Okay. What about a bicycle?
We bought him a used bicycle. He never rode it because he didn't want to fix it up. It wasn't good enough for him because it didn't come from a brand new store. And he was very upset. He's a very material young man.
I disagree with that completely.
About what?
Him being totally materialistic.
All right. Well,
he's always been satisfied with what he's had.
Do you have a receipt for the bike?
No, ma'am. We
Do you know
paid
where it is?
$25 cash at a yard sale for it.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, it's
Probably. Do you want to
been
pay
out
to
in
have it
the
shipped?
rain.
Do you want to pay to
I
have it
don't
shipped?
want to
Of course
pay to have
not.
it shipped.
Well, sorry. What about a microscope? Do you have a microscope?
No, ma'am. He got one for Christmas, but I have no idea where that is at this time. I could look through the stuff in the garage that we couldn't bring. I mean, we just brought what we could on the plane, which is a special backpack that his mother did send him up with. She sent him with 2 duffel bags and some clothing.
And that's why I'm wondering why she didn't send everything back when she sent him home if there was no intent
listen
for him
to
to
me.
be back.
Stop with the nonsense. This is nonsense here, madam.
Okay.
Miss Hoffman.
I'm sorry.
It's
Judge Judy,
nonsense.
I'm
She's
not-
gonna. She has his backpack. Certainly, I don't believe that the child has to pay for his own entertainment from his birthday
No.
money when you go as a family. So that goes back to you when you broke his Game Boy, which he values at $80. What else?
I really think you need to speak with Eric. Please. The only reason I'm here is because Eric wouldn't let go of this stuff. I didn't want to file his papers. He couldn't let go of the things. And his dad leaving him at the airport in Portland. His dad, he talked to his dad the Friday before he took the plane. I have a witness here that sat there while he made that phone call. The last time I spoke with Nick, when I was at the airport, I was paged, and they changed the flight to 2 weeks later.
Miss Hoffman, you said that your son spoke to his father the Friday before he was going to leave.
Right.
Yes.
Well, shh, just a second. Did you speak to and said to you, you know, Dad will be there at the airport, I assume?
I talked to him 2 weeks prior to that.
2 weeks prior to that was when you were going to send him before, and he told you not to send him. After that, did you confirm with him that he would be there to pick him up 2 weeks hence? Did you confirm that with him? Yes or no?
No, not me personally, because...
Just a sec. Well, I'm talking about you personally.
No, I did not speak to Nick personally after that.
So your son did?
Yes.
That was a mistake.
I guess so.
Well, that was a mistake.
May I address that issue?
Just a second. If you're making arrangements for a child who is clearly a troubled child, as you just quiet and listen, been around the block a long time, and I've seen a lot of kids.
I understand. You have been.
Good. So, if you're making arrangements for that kind of a child to be transferred and traveling alone, you don't rely on the 15-year-old who vacillates between who he wants to live with.
No.
To just listen to me.
Yes, I'm listening.
You don't rely on that child to make the travel arrangements with his father. You get on the phone with his father or the fiancé with whom he lives and make clear arrangements when he's coming, what time the plane is going to arrive, what time he's going to be there. You didn't do that.
I did that.
No.
I didn't do that 2 days before the flight. I did that 2 weeks before the flight, but I did that. Eric's really a very smart kid.
Miss Hoffman, one cannot assume that a father who agreed to take custody for a year of his child, hadn't lived with him, and was clearly giving you, who were the custodial parent, a lot of trouble, and then desert him purposefully at the airport. I cannot fathom what kind of human being would do that.
Well, neither can
Unless what was happening was you really wanted to send him back to his father, and his father said, no, I'm not taking him back, which is what he says. I can't do it. I have seizures, and it's causing me problems. It caused me problems with her.
Could you listen to my witness? She heard Eric's side of the conversation when he spoke to his father Saturday.
He didn't speak with his father. He spoke with me.
Spoke with you?
Yes, ma'am. And
that
it was
is not true.
In
that
August. Eric
true.
called and said that his mother was putting him on the plane and that he did not want to come. He was scheduled to fly out on August 11th of 2001. I called the airline at that moment in time, and it was either United or Delta, I don't recall.
Please.
And informed them that Eric was being sent with no one that was physically and medically capable of taking care of this child. At this point, she did not send Eric to us. She waited until 2 weeks afterwards. Then we were notified. We weren't even home. We were away elk hunting. We bow hunt, okay? We were away. I got a page on my pager. I went down. It took me 20 minutes to go to the nearest local store. They informed me that someone other than Suzanne, I don't know the name of the lady, had called and said that Eric was at Portland Airport at that moment. From my front door, it is a 2.5-hour drive, and that is not leaving for traffic. That is no snow over the pass. That is basically point A to point B, going the speed limit with no distractions.
Okay. Bird.
Yes, Judge.
The court is going to draft an order. The backpack will be turned over to Eric, and another $62 for his birthday money and $80 for his Game Boy. That's $142. That will be a judgment. And I'm going to ask all of you to sit down, and I'm going to see Eric in the back, please, alone.
Please.
Okay?
Suzanne Hoffman says ex-husband Nick Smoljan didn't show up at the airport to pick up their son. She is suing for travel expenses and for the return of the boy's personal property.
All right, would you step up, please? I will briefly tell you what I told Eric. I said that just because people are parents don't make them perfect, and that I believe that the fact that you weren't there at the airport to pick him up was a case of real miscommunication among everybody. And if, Miss Hoffman, you don't buy into that, that's your problem.
I know.
Why don't you be quiet and listen? If you don't buy into that, that's your problem. But if you want to do anything to protect your son and make sure that he feels as if both his parents care for him, then that's the story that you'll either start to believe or you will start to project. Because the fact that you have let him buy into this sense that he was totally rejected by his father by leaving him abandoned at the airport doesn't make him feel any better. It may make you feel better.
No, it doesn't make me feel better.
Why don't you just listen? You are not receiving. I don't care what the truth of the matter is. What I'm telling you is any child that is made to feel that they were abandoned doesn't make them feel good. Now, I have said to Eric, I don't believe, after hearing his father, that there was a purposefulness on his part of leaving him stranded. And I hope he believes me. And if you do anything to dissuade him from that belief, you are not being a good mother. Period. End of discussion. And I don't care what the truth of it is. I don't care. It's my sense. And that's what I told him. I also told him that you, Lynn, because he seems to like you.
I love him very much.
He seems to like you very much. You are going to do your best to look through the garage, which he acknowledged has a lot of people's things in it, and look for some things that have sentimental value to him. The pictures that he talked about, and whatever other memorabilia that you see there that looks as if it belongs to him. It will go a long way because circumstances change. This year, Mom's the gardenias. Next year, it could be Dad the gardenias. So we want to keep all these lines of communication open. So I want you to do me this favor and go through everything.
Yes, ma'am, I certainly will.
And anything that you find there that's not mentioned in this order,
I will get to it.
You'll put it in a box and mail to him directly. The backpack, he was pleased to hear that you brought. I told him that you were going to reimburse him for the $62 of his birthday money and for the Game Boy that he says you smashed. So that's $80.
And we also purchased.
So that is a judgment on Eric's behalf. For $142, the backpack will be transferred today. Also, he has some clothes. Yes.
Yes. Eric is very emotionally challenged, and all of his records are still up at Tillamook Family Counseling. So I don't know if she sought emotional counseling, but he was in the school counseling every single day. I have documentation of this. He was at 42 different counseling appointments for him, individual plus 11 different ones in our home. And he really, my stressor and my whole point for being here today is that Eric needs help to be a wonderful, well-rounded individual. He's very, very smart. He has a lot to offer our world, but if his emotional issues are not met, I fear for both Eric and our world.
May I suggest that you photocopy all the records that you have?
I have them for her.
Give her a copy. Do you have them today?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Make sure she gets it today. What she does with them is totally up to her. She has primary physical custody of this child at this point, so she should be able to take care of... What are you crying about?
Because I'm not as articulate as I should be, and I'm sorry. I have taken Eric to counseling. We have been doing all the things that we're supposed to do.
Fine, then what's the problem? She's giving you the
records.
records.
The problem is,
she's
this
giving you the
man comes in
records.
here, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to say anything against him. I don't.
So then don't. So then don't.
Okay.
Then don't. I said to you there was a miscommunication. There was a miscommunication.
I don't believe that.
Well, that's your problem, Ms. Hoffman. Get over it.
You told me that.
Get over it. Get over it. And if you're taking Eric to counseling, that's wonderful. And she's going to give you a copy of the records that she has for the year.
That's good.
You should be able to give them to your counselor. So I don't know what your problem is.
I'm sure the counselors already have been in touch with each other from California to Oregon because I released all so they could go back and forth with information when he moved up there.
All she's doing is giving a copy of your record. She's trying to be complete.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Please excuse you, may step out.
I'm really sorry that I let Eric down again.
We did do the best we could for him while he was there, even though he's not my son. I took on that love and that responsibility. I was there for him constantly.
Nick comes out on top when he was the one that left him at the airport. He knew he was coming.
I hope that she can seriously deal with this.
29-year-old personal trainer April Thompson is suing her former friend, 32-year-old construction worker Lorenzo Aguilar, for the return of 2 English bulldogs.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 410 on the calendar, the matter of Thompson versus Aguilar. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
This case is about your 2 bulldogs, and you claim that the defendant, without your permission, gave away these 2 dogs. So my first question to you is, how did he come into possession, into custody of your 2 bulldogs?
He worked at the dog daycare place where I used to take them, and I got in a position this summer where I had to move out where I was living at, and I didn't really have a place to keep them. And
when was that?
Middle of September.
And what did you do? You called him?
I had been up there at the daycare place, and he saw that I was stressed and everything about the whole situation and stuff, and he said that his brother had a yard and that he could take care of them for me.
Well, you must have told him that you couldn't take the dogs. You must have told him, I can't take the dogs.
Yes.
And he said, I have a brother who has a yard.
Yes.
And what did you say?
I thought that would be great. You know, I would have a place to keep them until I found a place to stay and everything, and he told me that I could come and see them.
Did you discuss how long you were going to leave the dogs with his brother?
It was only supposed to be temporary, maybe a couple of weeks.
So the beginning of October?
Yes.
So between the 15th of September, which is mid-September, and the beginning of October, did you have contact with him?
I called all the time and never got a hold of him.
So you didn't speak to him?
No.
Did you go over to the doggy daycare?
Yeah, I went to the daycare place and...
did you see him?
No. He had lost his job during that time and was no longer working there.
How did you finally get in touch with him?
Finally, I think his family got tired of me calling the house all the time and coming by and leaving notes, and he finally got in touch with me, and he told me that he couldn't give me the dogs back because the kids were attached, And that wasn't the point of kids being attached. He was just supposed to temporarily take care of them.
When did you finally speak to him? What month?
In October.
Now, what was your living situation in the beginning of October?
I found a place to stay and everything so I could have them with me.
And you communicated that to him in October?
Yes, he said he was going to get a hold of the people who had them, and I didn't really understand what he meant by that because his brother was supposed to be taking care of them, and he said he couldn't get in touch with them.
How long had you had these dogs?
I've had the one 2 years and the other one 1.5 years. I mean, I have health insurance on them, and I don't even have health insurance on myself. I mean, I've make a scrapbook for my boyfriends of them. You know, they're my little boys. They're not really what I consider
Okay,
dogs.
Mr. Aguilar, let me hear your version of these events. Mid-September, she asked you what?
She came into the shop where I used to work out on a Friday afternoon, and she said she was having some problems. If I could watch them through the weekend. I said, sure. So once the weekend came up, Monday, I called her up. She said she was still having some problems. I said, oh, I'll watch them for a few more days.
Did you have her home phone or a cell phone?
I had both numbers.
Okay, go ahead.
So once those days came, I called her up, and I told her, you know what, I'm no longer working there. Come get your dogs. I couldn't keep them at the house anymore. So she says, I can't take them back if you can find them a home. And I said, my brother, he liked the dogs. He said, can you give him a try? I took him to my brother's house.
And what did she say when you said, I have a brother who can take care of them?
She said, fine. I said, yeah, there's no problem. You come and visit them once in a while. But it didn't work out at my brother's house. The landlord didn't accept the dogs there because they ruined the yard. Meanwhile, it was my brother's wife's cousin was in from out of town. He liked the dogs.
Did you call Miss Thompson and tell her it didn't work out at your brother's house?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes.
You did? You called her on her home phone or her cell phone?
Home.
And what did you tell her when you called her at her home phone?
I said that it didn't work out with my brother, that it was another family was watching the dogs now, that they wanted the dogs. And she told me to find a home. That's what I did. I just did what...
What did she say to you, sir, when you said to her, it didn't work out with my brother, but there's another family? Did she ask you who these people were?
No.
Didn't ask you anything about them?
No.
Didn't ask you whether they had children, whether they lived in a home, whether they had a yard?
Didn't ask me anything of that because 2 months passed by when she got in contact with me.
Not when she got in contact with you. I'm asking you, sir. You told me shortly after she gave you the dogs, you say you called her and told her about that.
Yes.
And she didn't ask you anything about these people. She said it was okay. Is that what you told me?
Yes.
And then months later she called you and said, I want my dogs back.
Yes.
That's what you're telling me. December, maybe, she called and told you she wanted her dogs back?
The end of November.
End of November. And that was the first you had heard from her after you told her you were giving the dogs to your brother's wife's cousin?
Yes.
Now, Miss Thompson, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Did Mr. Aguilar call you and tell you that he was giving the dogs to his brother's wife's cousin?
No. As far as I knew, they were with his brother.
So you're telling me the beginning of October he never called you to tell you he was giving them to this other person? Now, if he had called you and said to you, my brother can't keep the dogs, but there's this other family, you would have asked him a couple of questions about the other family, right?
Right. They're my little family.
Can I see your scrapbook, please? Oh, sorry. While you were bringing the dogs to the doggy daycare, you brought them there while you were working, is that right? I'm talking about before this time, before you ran into some trouble during the summer.
Yes.
While you were working, you would bring them there during the day?
Yeah, normally on hot days because I do personal training and they go everywhere with me, so I couldn't, I kept them in the car a couple times with the air conditioner running and you get a violation for that, so it was just a lot easier just to take them in to daycare and then come and pick them up.
And other than that, they were with you all the time?
Yeah, when they were puppies, they went in the gym bag with me.
Now, when you took them to doggy daycare, you had to pay for that?
Yeah, it's like $60 a day. Sometimes I pay more for the dog daycare than I do for my rent. You know, I mean,
I got you. Now, Mr. Aguilar, let me explain to you, sir, why I don't believe you. Because if you create a scrapbook like this of your pets, and if you pay a substantial amount of money for daycare for your dog, then a normal person, under the scenario that you created for me, when you said, I called her and told her my brother couldn't take care of the dogs anymore, but there was another family. The first question you would ask is, well, tell me about them. Where do they live? Do they have children? Is there a yard? Could I come to visit them? Because you said I could visit them when they were supposed to be with your brother. Now, you told me she asked you nothing, and all she said to you was fine. I don't believe that, Mr. Aguilar. Not for a minute.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. April Thompson says former friend Lorenzo Aguilar refuses to return her 2 English bulldogs. Lorenzo says she told him to give them away.
Now, I don't know if you got any money for these dogs. English bulldogs are very expensive.
I know.
Very expensive, sir. So I'm not even going to ask you whether you got any money for these dogs. How much did you pay for them?
$1,500 a piece.
They're very expensive dogs. These people who you gave the dogs to, Mr. Aguilar, gave or sold or another way bartered these dogs for Mr. Aguilar, do they live out of the jurisdiction? Do they live out of state?
Up north in Fresno.
Have you spoken to them?
I contacted once that the previous owner wanted to visit and then declined. They didn't want to have to do nothing with it.
Mm-hmm. Was any money exchanged for these dogs, Mr. Aguilar?
No.
Can I see the police report that you filed the beginning of November? Did the police ever contact you, sir?
Yes.
I don't have a write-up from the police with regard to their conversation with the defendant. Do you have any further follow-up from the police?
No, that's all that's all that I have. They told me that since I gave him permission to watch them, they're considered property, so I didn't really have a right, which it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me either, and I don't buy Mr. Aguilar's story, quite frankly, that he spoke to you and you said he was going to give the dogs away to strangers. You asked no questions about the people that he was going to give the dogs to. That doesn't make any sense at all. The value that you gave the police for the dogs was $3,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson, I know this is going to be a difficult question to answer. If you receive a judgment, are you going to purchase 2 new bulldogs?
They're not replaceable. I can't replace
I know, but
them.
I can't give you back the ones that you had because I don't have the people before me who have them. Do you understand? If I could, I would, but I don't have those people. If I could force them to do that, I would, but I can't. Those people aren't here. So I'm going to ask you the question again. If you receive a judgment today in the amount of $3,000, is it your intention to, I can't say replace your dogs because you can't replace them, but would it be your intention to start again with 2 new puppies of the same breed?
I don't know. I didn't really think about not getting them back.
Well, you understand that he doesn't have them physically, so I can't get them from him. You understand that?
Yes.
Well, I'm at least going to give you an opportunity to think about it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You can step out.
I'll try to get the dogs back for her, and I couldn't.
I need to make sure and get stuff in writing next time rather than just trust people and what they say.
Forward, please.
Cindy Hayden and her son, 16-year-old Anthony Kreppel, are suing Cindy's brother, Rick Hayden, his girlfriend, Lila Kennedy, and Lila's son, 16-year-old Nicholas Lyons. Cindy says during a road trip, Nicholas assaulted her son.
All right, let's deal with this in short order if we can. Miss Hayden, the defendant is your brother, Mr. Hayden.
Yes.
Co-defendant is a friend of yours, or was a friend of yours,
Yes.
Miss Kennedy. And according to your complaint, you wanted to bring Miss Kennedy to meet your brother.
Correct.
And you arranged to go with your children and Miss Kennedy's children to where your brother lives, which was some distance away in another state.
Yes.
On sort of a road trip / vacation, whatever. So far correct?
Correct.
And you say that while there, your son and the defendant's son got into some sort of an altercation, and your son was assaulted.
Yes.
Miss Kennedy said she's not taking you back. You're not all going back in the same car. make your own arrangements to get home.
Correct.
So you are suing for two things. For the expenses that you had to get home.
Correct.
And you are suing them also on behalf of your son for whatever injuries he sustained as a result of this altercation with the defendant's son.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. What makes you think they're responsible to provide transportation for you home after this argument that got physical with the two boys?
For the simple fact, when we left on this trip, it was a trip paid for there and back.
By whom?
By my brother Rick. He had sent me money for gas to get there and sent Miss Kennedy money before we left to get home on.
I paid for the trip, Your Honor, but she spent her share of the money on marijuana before she
I don't care
made
whether
her
she
trip.
spent her share on marijuana. It doesn't make any difference. He sent gas money.
No.
He sent gas money. You're not entitled to any money for your return trip. Forget that.
Okay.
Now tell me about the fight that happened between your son and the defendant, Miss Kennedy's son.
Lila and I was arguing over the money situation, that I had paid for a haircut. She said I didn't. It was minute. The next thing I know, Lila grabbed me in a headlock. As I was in my headlock and I was looking over, I seen that in the doorway there was my brother, Rick, my son, and also Nick Lyons. Well, my brother Rick had my son held by both of his arms. He was behind him and had him held by both of his arms, while Nick Lyons was punching my son in the chest with his fist.
So you called the police?
Yes.
What kind of injuries did you have, young man?
Well, I got a knot on my chest. It caused a bunch of bruising, and they said that this knot will probably be here for about a year or so.
A knot?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened that day. Why don't you tell me what happened?
All the yelling and everything was going on, and Tony, he went after my mom, and I was defending my mom, basically.
Was she holding this lady?
No, that didn't happen until me and her son got into it, and I had him on the floor holding him down, and then she jumped on my back, threw me in a headlock herself, and had me to the point where I couldn't breathe, and I was turning purple in the face, and she grabbed her off of me, and that happened, and she had her back up against the wall, and me and Tony continued at it.
Did he hit you at all?
Not that I can remember.
But you hit him?
Yeah.
How many times?
Once in the face, and that was, and I kneed him in the chest.
It was pretty
Once
much
in
a
the face.
wrestling match.
What?
It was pretty much just a wrestling match, and there was nobody holding anybody except Lila holding Cindy, because Cindy, after they ended up on a wrestling match on the floor, Cindy jumped on his back, clawing him at the face, choking him, screaming and yelling and calling him dirty names.
You mean over haircut money?
She wanted to go home. She wanted, the whole arrangement was that Cindy called. I hadn't talked to her for years because she's been a parasite in the family for years. She's done this to everybody in the family. Every time she goes somewhere, she turns it into a big melee mess. So I thought, well, give her one more chance. She's your sister. You know, it's Thanksgiving. Bring her down here, see if she's changed. Well, that was it. She changed all right.
Okay. She wanted to go home.
After she started threatening Lila's life because Lila wouldn't take her home when she wanted to go because she ran out of her drugs. And she wouldn't leave it alone. Every time I would leave the room, she would go back in there. And the last time, when I finally got fed up, she told Lila, just wait till I get you home if you make it that far. So then Tony attacks Lila and starts screaming and went after Lila. I tried to separate
Does that sound
them.
right to you?
Actually, I was telling Lila that it was true. My mom paid for the haircut that Nick had.
So you were arguing with Lila?
Yeah, and then Nick came up
Loud?
behind me. Yeah, we were arguing pretty loud.
Loud? You were yelling at her?
Yeah, she was yelling at me and yelling at my mom.
How old are you?
16.
How old is she? Older. She's a mother. She has a child your age. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what were you doing yelling at her?
I was defending my mom.
Your mother looks like she can defend herself. Your lawsuit's dismissed. You had a fight, you had an argument, you were all involved with it. It got physical, which is outrageous for the adults to become involved with a physical argument. Now you want to be compensated for that, plus the ride home? You're dreaming. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's unfortunate that it's happened, but it'll never happen again. She'll never be back.
The only one that had drugs on that trip was Lila and her son.
I think she could use some help.
Lila's whole life centers on Lila and nobody else.
Care nurse Darius Lawrence is suing her roommate, real estate agent Ron Goss, for unpaid cleaning and landscaping services. Ron has a countersuit for unpaid rent.
Miss Lawrence, according to your complaint, you answered an ad in the newspaper for a roommate, and you moved in with the defendant. Is that right? Yes. And you claim a rather interesting arrangement, that you came to an agreement with the defendant that instead of paying rent, you would do housework and landscaping around the house.
What it was is I would do rent and trade with bill credit if I needed to ask.
What does that mean,
In
rent
other
and
words,
trade?
The rent was $275 plus utilities, and if I did work for him, he would give me credit off my rent and my utilities.
And your lawsuit says that you did so much work around the house that he owes you money.
And landscaping.
And landscaping that he owes you money.
And I paid products to keep the home together, and I bought food, kept the refrigerator full.
The defendant says that there was no such arrangement except for 1 month when he did give you a credit for doing some cleaning because you were short of money. He is counterclaiming not only for the rent that you owe him, but also because he says that you forced out 2 other tenants because of your bizarre behavior. So that's what this case is about. All right. When did you see the ad in the paper?
On May 4th.
When did you move in?
The 29th of May.
And what kind of property is it?
It's a house that he sold to a friend of his.
And you had your own room?
Yes.
And full use of the house? Other than that?
Yes.
When did you move out?
I haven't. We still live there together in the residence.
I'm in the process, Your Honor, of evicting her. I gave her a 30-day notice on November 3rd. She was to be out December 3rd. She didn't leave, so then I had to go and do a forced eviction. Yesterday we were at the courthouse for her to get out. She does not want to leave. She has not paid me a single dime of rent since September 8th.
So you're still living together?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How unpleasant. Okay. Tell me about this first conversation that you had with him with regard to the rent.
He asked me what type of things do I do. I told him I'm a professional cleaner. I do landscaping, and I would do a trade private house cleaning, his laundry, his basic chores, etc. I told him I would keep the refrigerator full, do the cooking.
What kind of reduction in rent would that be?
I thought an honorable fair trade when I came to him and requested it.
Miss Lawrence, you always pick a dollar amount. If you pay someone for cleaning your home, that's so much. So you tell me, is what you're saying that you had no fixed amount that you would have your rent reduced by doing these chores?
Well, I explained to him landscaping I thought was a fair deal. Each week was $25 a week, and for a home his size, I thought $10 an hour was fair for private and professional cleaning.
Okay, and you explained that to him. You said $10 an hour for professional cleaning and $25 for landscaping. Is that what you said to him?
Yes, I explained that to him.
Just look at me. Don't look down.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you explain how many hours you thought it would take to clean the house?
No, ma'am.
You didn't. So it was sort of open-ended. If you decided to really clean for 5 hours a day or 3 hours a day, it would be $30 a day, and you did that every day. So you would keep a running tag of how much work you did in the house, and at the end of the month, you would probably be presenting him a bill.
That's what I was trying to do with him.
And so now you claim that he owes you $3,266 for the cleaning and landscaping services that you performed from May until now.
That's correct.
And for a refund of rent because you did give him some money in rent.
Yes, ma'am.
And you, of course, want that back because why would you pay him anything if you were doing all this work, right?
Well, I wasn't going to try to be greedy and want all the rent back. I just wanted a fair adjustment with him, but he wouldn't come to the dickering table and read my receipts.
And $1,650 should have been paid for rent. And how much did you actually pay him?
What I calculated I came up with is $1,200.
How much did she pay you in rent, sir?
I'd say $485 to $500 is what she gave me in the 7
So let's say $500.
Mm-hmm.
That's being generous.
Yes.
It's $1,100 owing on rent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you have a conversation, Mr. Gauze, with Miss Lawrence about doing this house cleaning for $10 an hour and landscaping for $25 an hour?
First off, Judge, she came in May 15th with no upfront rent or deposits. I told her I would take off $125 the first month to help her out, and I was to get $150 within the next month. She was getting unemployment checks at the time. She was going to pay me weekly with those checks. It was very sporadic, $30, maybe 3 weeks, $40, another 3 weeks. She never gave me a full month's rent ever. And in the meantime, I had 2 roommates move in, one June 1, which would be about 2 weeks after she came. He could only make it 2 weeks because she drove him out of the house. She likes to control the house like it's hers, and he couldn't take it. So I lost rent from him. And then another roommate came in about August. He lasted 3 weeks. He had to leave because of her also.
I'm not entertaining that part of your lawsuit,
Okay.
sir. Let's talk about answering my question. When she didn't pay you rent, say, the second month, did you have a conversation with her?
Yes, I wanted her to leave. I said I could not afford her. I said I want to rent a room for money, not for services. I could not afford her. I told her that in the summertime.
And what did she say?
She just kept assuming that I could, and she kept doing the jobs, and I wanted her to leave since August.
When you say she kept doing the jobs, did you ask her to do any work?
No, I told her I could not afford her many times. I said I just want the rent that was stated.
When, for the first time, did you tell her that you wanted her out?
I would say about 1st of August, after the second guy left. He was wanting to stay, and I was trying to get rid of her then. So it's been quite a while since I've been trying to get her out. So then I had to do it with the court process.
I'm going to go back to my initial question to you, Mr. Gauze. Did you ever sit down and discuss with her that she would charge you what she considered fair, $10 an hour for cleaning and $25 for landscaping?
No.
Did that conversation ever take place?
No.
Of course it didn't. You couldn't even look me straight in the eye and give me that line. Miss Lawrence, you moved into this gentleman's house and you have not paid rent. If another judge won't tell you, I will. He wants you to pay rent or get out. He's told you that now for 5 months. So my question to you is, why don't you move?
I paid rent. Here's my rent receipts.
Let me see your receipts. Those are rent receipts. Is that what you're showing me?
Rent receipts?
Just
Yes.
listen, before she hands me that stack of papers, are you showing me rent receipts?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. What's this $72, the first thing?
When I give him cash, I write on the back of my receipt, I paid rent. And then I have money orders from my credit union, money orders from the check exchange, and those are the receipts.
No, those are not receipts. That's baloney. I don't know what some other judge is going to buy of your story. I don't buy this. This is a money order, and this was for $40. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Allegedly to him. Then we have some more of these $25. So every time you took cash out of a machine, you consider this a rent receipt?
What he did is took cash and money orders. He took both.
Baloney. You're a hustler. This is all garbage. Has nothing to do with rent. Now, Miss Lawrence, why don't you move? Is my question. He's not happy. You can't be happy. Why are you imposing yourself on this man and not paying rent?
Because he offered me honorable fair trade and he broke his agreement.
You're full of baloney, madam. You made up a story when you said to me that you had an agreement that he would pay you $10 an hour for cleaning and $25 for landscaping. That's baloney. It doesn't make sense. It defies common sense. I would have to say that he's a lunatic for doing that. You keep the records of how much you earn. At the end of the month, you present him a bill for $500 and say, you owe me money. I don't owe you money, you owe me money. He doesn't look like a nut to me. So your claim is dismissed. It's baloney. You owe him $1,100 in rent. On the counterclaim, that's what I'm awarding you. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When he made an agreement to give me fair trade, he was supposed to be a gentleman and keep it.
I wanted her out as early as 1st of August.
He threatened me on voicemail that he was going to do bodily harm to me if I didn't leave the residence.
Tenants should pay rent.
What I did is call the police and let them know about the threatening voicemail.
I knew she was just a user and a manipulator.
Verbal complaint was filed against him.
She controls the house. She thinks it's her house.
Of course I'm moving and leaving, and it's not a happy time right now.
Now I'm going in an eviction process to get her out for good, so it'll be good.
I told the truth, and he's not telling the truth.
Victory for landlords.
Cummings is suing clothing designer Leroy Carey for ruining her pageant by failing to deliver evening gowns. Leroy has a countersuit for defamation of character.
Order. Come to order. All rise. Come to order, please. Your Honor, this is case number 327 on the calendar in the matter of Cummings versus Carey. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Cummings, according to your complaint, you were running a pageant, Miss Trinidad and Tobago pageant.
Indeed.
That was supposed to take place in New York City on the 16th of September.
Yes.
And you hired the defendant to make dresses for some of the contestants.
Yes.
The pageant had to be postponed because of the attack on the World Trade Center on the 11th of September, and when it was ultimately rescheduled for what date?
October 21st.
On that date, the defendant did not deliver the dresses,
Indeed.
either on that date or before. And you are suing him for the return of the deposits that you paid to him and some punitive damages.
Indeed.
The defendant says that he tried to fulfill his obligations, but at the time that the pageant was rescheduled, he did have other obligations, and he is countersuing because he says that as a result of your actions, by broadcasting either by the internet or by contacting his clients, he suffered damage to his business. That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
How much did you pay him as in for deposits for the dresses?
$2,100.
Is that correct, Mr. Carey?
Yes.
And when were the dresses ordered?
The dresses were ordered on the 29th of July when he came to my rehearsal and he measured the contestants.
Did he deliver any dresses to you
He
completely?
delivered one dress on August 11th when he brought the initial dresses to be fit. That dress was paid for in full, $600 cash he received on that dress.
And the $2,100 deposit was for all the dresses?
It's 15 opening dresses and 4 gowns.
Now, the pageant was supposed to take place on the 16th of September. Mr. Carey, I would assume from the 29th of July until the 16th of September, you had actually completed all the dresses.
Yes.
Since the pageant was postponed to a later date, so you had more time,
Yes.
why couldn't you, if the dresses were complete, just put the dresses in overnight boxes and send them to the plaintiff?
Because they had to be fitted. And they were, like when I went there before, she made changes on them. One dress, two of them were actually complete. She made me take them back and do more changes. One of the girls who, they had given me instructions to do her dress, I did the dress as I thought Mrs. Cunning told me to do it. When I got there, it wasn't what the girl wanted. So I had to take that one back.
Okay,
So,
but you did all of that work well before September 16th.
But I still had to get approval through her. We had no final approval on anything.
Well, what efforts did you make to contact him?
Your Honor, we made about 50 telephone calls to Mr. Carey. Every time we called him, he said first, because of the World Trade Center, security is tight, he can't come to New York. Then he was on the...
Where do you live, sir?
Washington, D.C.
Then he was on the Amtrak. He couldn't get on the Amtrak with the dresses. Collectively, we have over 50 calls to him. Every time we called him, the dresses were done. They were complete. We even made arrangements to go and pick him up. He told us, don't come for him. He has a wedding. We also made arrangements to house him in New York. He said, don't worry. On the day of the pageant, before I left for the show, he calls me on the telephone. He says, Renee, I am on my way. I have your gowns. I have everything. What I had to do the night before, I had to go and make myself 15 new opening outfits. I have pictures of that and a videotape that I brought to show you. I had to also solicit from a friend evening gowns to lend the girls to wear. And I also have those photographs for you.
I'd like to see them.
All those were borrowed evening gowns, except for the one gown that was sewn on the day of the show. The contestant's mother did that, the orange dress. Every time we called Leroy, it was an excuse.
That's not true.
Well, tell me about it, Mr. Carey. Did you tell her that you were going to show up?
Yeah, Your Honor, I was going to show up.
So what
But
happened?
On the day of the show, because it kept being postponed and postponed, I had another obligation that same, and I didn't realize it was the same day. So
When did you realize that it was the same day?
When I called my house and I got a message saying that I'm supposed to be in New York, and I spoke with Mr. Brown because I worked with him before.
What date did you call?
It must have been that Saturday. I can't remember the exact
He
date.
called me 2 o'clock on the Sunday of my pageant because I was now leaving to go to the auditorium to get it ready.
Right.
Well,
But I
when
spoke
did
to
you
him-
realize, Mr. Carey, that you had double booked yourself? If you told her you were going to be there for the pageant, when did you realize that you had these 2 obligations? On what date?
When I got the message, when I called my house and got the message.
But, Mr. Carey, she had told you before that the pageant was rescheduled for the 26th.
Well, she had told me I had gotten several dates for the pageant.
That is incorrect.
No,
Yeah,
she must have told you. Look, listen. She must have told you that the pageant is now rescheduled for the 26th. Let's say she only told you a week in advance.
Right.
Let's say she only told you a week in advance,
Okay.
and I can't imagine putting a pageant together just in a week because you have to have people there. But let's say it was just a week. Now, your schedule, if you looked at your schedule, you'd say, well, it's on the 26th. On the 26th, I have this other project that I have to do, so that date is not good.
Okay. Well,
So what did you do? You didn't look in your diary?
No, I didn't write it down. I didn't. That was my
Well,
fault.
then that's your fault.
Yes.
Good. So we finally got there.
Yeah.
It was your
I agree.
fault.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. That would have been easy right from the start.
That's right.
Then she gets her money back.
And I agree. I agree that she gets her money back. As a matter of fact, Your Honor, I mean, I don't have a problem giving her money back. Okay, now...
Obviously you have a
wait, I'm speaking.
A problem giving me my money back. Sorry.
What I was trying to do, I mean, I should have been honest with her from the beginning, let you know about the money. I had to sell the dresses in order to get the money back. But, Your Honor, when she started threatening me, sending emails to my clients and to my colleagues, you know, saying that I was trying to defraud her, when she know that's far from the truth.
Well, just one second. So we have no problem now with your claim, madam. Your claim is you want your money back for the deposits. You also want a lot more money because for aggravation.
Not for aggravation, just the money that I used to get the opening outfits together the Saturday before the show.
Well, how much did you spend?
Well, actually, it was really cheap.
How much did you spend?
$600.
Just one second. But you're going to get $2,100 back.
That was my deposit for what was not delivered.
I understand that, Miss Cummings. I'm not really good in math. However, if you're getting $2,100 back and you spent $600 to get the outfits together, you're still ahead $1,500, right?
I guess.
Is that right?
I'm sorry, Judge, I was looking at the pictures. 100 minus 600, 1,500, you're right.
So you're still ahead $1,500.
Okay, I am.
Right. Okay.
You want to see this video?
No, I know you're dying to see the video, so we'll take a look at it for a couple of minutes. Put it in.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Renee Cunning says clothing designer Leroy Carey ruined her beauty pageant when he failed to deliver the evening gowns. Leroy says he tried his best.
That's I Love New York t-shirts. The girls are wearing t-shirts. We strip them, we cut them, and we slash them.
I love it.
It's cute. Yes, it is. And we used it to sort of pay tribute to the World Trade Center. But
love it.
I didn't want anything that daring. I'm sort of conservative, so I had another idea in mind. And then we have this contestant. She fainted on stage.
So?
Because of the dress that she was wearing was too tight.
How do I know that? That's ridiculous. She fainted because of her dress?
The dress she borrowed to wear. And then the stress and the anguish of getting something the night before.
Get over it.
She's right here.
Get over it. I don't want to hear it. Stress, anguish. Please, over a dress?
A competition. It's an evening gown. It's a competition, Your Honor.
So?
It's a competition. These girls build all summer they've been working on this.
Did she win?
No, she didn't.
Maybe that's why she fainted.
Is that
right? Listen, Miss Cummings, get it together. Get it together. You're entitled to your deposit back.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's get to your cross-complaint for defamation. I'd like to see what evidence that you have.
Okay. These are all the emails that she sent out.
Let me see. Did you have a promise to return the money, sir, on October 23rd?
I told her I was going to mail the money out. Yes, I did.
Did you?
No, I didn't.
Well, this says that you, in the letter, it says that you promised to return the money on Wednesday, October 23rd, and he still hasn't returned the money. Why is that defamation? It's true.
No, but, Your Honor, I got that before. You know, she told me this is what she was going to do if I didn't send the money out to her.
Good. So what?
And, I mean...
so why didn't you send the money to her?
Your Honor, I was trying to sell the dresses in order to get the money to send back to her. Because Your Honor, not only did I had to send her back her money, I spent a lot of money out of my pocket also.
So what?
I paid for a hotel room. I had to pay to go back and forth to New York.
You got confused. You didn't check your diary.
Your Honor, I'm saying prior to September 11th.
I understand that, sir. But the whole problem was created by you because you didn't check your diary to see that you had 2 appointments on the same day.
No, Your Honor, I'm saying prior to all of this.
That's your fault. You have to suck it up. You got to suck it up. If you made an ultimate mistake, what they needed were their gowns on time. And I don't care what efforts you made and what money you spent prior to that time, Ultimately, they had a pageant scheduled. They had your guarantee that you would be there. You did not show up. You promised to return the money promptly. You did not return the money promptly, and she sent out a series of emails outlining exactly what happened. That's not defamation.
Your Honor.
She's allowed to do that.
Your Honor.
That's the First Amendment.
Yeah, Your Honor. Prior to this pageant, I have got where checks have bounced on me, where I spent money out of my pocket to purchase stuff, to do the gowns. I paid for hotels so I could fit them, but I put up with it, Your Honor. I mean, there was no complaint. I've never had this problem before.
Mr. Carey.
So I trusted him.
Acknowledge that if you had a problem, you had a legitimate complaint, but then you don't say the day before the pageant, I'm going to be on the train, don't worry, and not show up. That's unprofessional, sir, and what she's accusing you here in these letters is being unprofessional, which you were. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100, and your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought they should have got their money back, but I thought I should have got mine too.
My entire show was nearly ruined, but thank God we had a backup plan.
Curtis Pritchard is suing his ex-fiancée, Betty Sestella, for the return of an engagement ring and wedding band and unauthorized bank withdrawals. Betty is countersuing for the cost of an engagement necklace and for the return of her money.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 322 on the calendar in the matter of Pritchard versus Sestella. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right, the engagement didn't work out. Why can't you two folks just, put a period and get on with your lives? Any reason? You want your engagement/wedding ring set back.
Yes, ma'am.
And you claim that the defendant also took money out of a bank account.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant wants her engagement necklace back that she gave you. She wants reimbursement for some jewelry that you pawned of hers. And she wants a return of money that she said she put in your joint bank account that you were supposed to be saving. Were you living together when you were engaged?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you give her the engagement ring?
May 11th.
Tell me the circumstances around you giving her the engagement ring. Was it a surprise?
No, ma'am. She went with me and picked out the rings and helped
She
negotiate
went to the store with
price.
you?
That's correct.
So far, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me about this engagement necklace. When did you get that?
I believe it was in April.
It was May, actually, May 3rd, that I purchased the necklace.
May 3rd. But you gave it to him before you got your engagement ring.
Yes, ma'am. It was at the jewelry store that we were going to purchase my engagement ring at.
I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding you giving him the necklace.
Okay. We had broke up at one point, and he had pawned my wedding band from my ex-husband, his gold chain, and a Texas ring of his. He told me when I got the stuff out of the pawn that for me to go ahead and give the gold chain of his to my eldest son. So that's what I did. So whenever we were looking at jewelry there at the jewelry...
So you got the jewelry out of the pawn shop?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was it to get the jewelry out of the
$180.
So you had all the pieces of jewelry in your possession?
Yes.
Do you still?
The only thing that I still have is the necklace.
What happened to the other property?
I gave it back to him.
Including your wedding band?
No. This is my wedding band from my ex-husband.
Well, so you kept that?
Right, because that was not from him. It wasn't his.
No, I understand that, but you kept that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you kept the gold necklace?
Correct.
What kind of gold necklace is it?
It's a Figaro chain.
Can I see it, please?
And he told me to give it to my oldest son, Jeremy.
Okay.
So, in which I got it back from Jeremy.
Okay. Fine. Let's get to the necklace that you got him. Did you buy it on the day that you bought the engagement rings?
No, ma'am, because we went to another jewelry store and found something less expensive, and we purchased those, which was just a few days within one another.
How much did you pay for this necklace?
$525.
You have the receipt for it?
It's on the back of my check. They did it like if it was a credit card. And it's from North Lake Jewelers, which it says on the back.
Mm-hmm. And do you have the receipt from the engagement rings?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see them, please? Okay. Where is the necklace?
It's at home.
You want your rings back? Your rings are clearly more expensive than the necklace.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you give her the necklace back and she'll give you the rings back?
Well, because it was not an engagement gift. It was a gift to replace...
A gift to replace what?
Part of her story's online, but the necklace part, I didn't tell her to give it to her son till after she had already gotten it out of pawn, and I knew it was in her possession at that time. She wasn't going to give it to me anyway.
Because you were fighting at that point?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But when we got back together, I did tell her, you know, I want my necklace, because I was afraid she had given it to somebody else.
What did you do with the money that you pawned the stuff for?
I bought groceries and stuff for her and her kids.
Is that right?
No, I don't know when he pawned it or what he did with the money.
Let me ask you this question.
I don't know.
You were living together for a period of time, for this period of time, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working? Working. And
At
you
that
tell me
moment?
where, for whom, and how much you were earning. So my question is, at the time you pawned the jewelry, were you employed?
I believe I was. I
believe
and
you
the
were.
reason I say is because it's been almost a year.
Well,
So-
I want you to think back. Think back.
I was
Pawned the
working.
jewelry?
Yeah, I was working as
For who?
For the state of Texas. I was a boot camp drill instructor.
What were you earning?
I was earning $7.25 an hour.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
Can't support yourself and 3 children on $7.25 an hour.
No, ma'am. My children live with their father
So it was just the 2 of you?
and his 2 children.
Ah. So was she in fact working as a drill instructor at that point, sir?
No, she had already quit, but her kids came for visitation. And at that weekend was in between my pay periods, and we didn't have any money. And all 3 of them came, and we needed some money.
Okay. What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a private investigator.
So if you want these rings back, and if you want to terminate this relationship in the most agreeable and less stressful manner as possible, why don't you just give her back the necklace? She's going to give you back the rings, and then we've resolved part of this lawsuit.
Because I like the necklace.
Is it worth more than $2,500?
No, ma'am.
That's what you paid for the rings. That sounds fair to me, doesn't it?
If you feel that, I don't.
I sure do. So you're going to give her back the necklace, and she's going to give you back the rings. Then we've taken care of that. Now let's talk about the money. You say she took some money out of a bank account?
Yes, ma'am.
$600?
$662, some in that neighborhood. Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
me about that.
Well, it's my bank account, and the only money that was in that bank account was money that people had written me checks for cars or something. No money of hers ever went in that bank account.
Was it a joint bank account?
I did put her on the bank account, that's correct. But when she left, I requested the ATM cards and the credit cards.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Curtis Pritchard says ex-fiancée Betty Sestala refuses to give back his engagement ring and wedding band. Curtis also says Betty helped herself to his bank account.
I'll hear you.
Every week that I got paid, I gave Curtis my money. I worked from May 11th to August 9th.
3 months.
Yes, ma'am. I made $8,400. I didn't spend $8,000 in living expenses and stuff.
How much did you spend?
I don't know.
Well, how do I know?
Well, the reason that I say that is there's no way I could have possibly spent $8,000. I'm not a high-maintenance girl.
I don't know whether you are, whether you're not, but if you have a joint bank account and you're putting money in, and I assume you were putting money in the
No money
account?
went into the bank account.
What?
No, none of her pay ever went in the bank account.
Well, what happened with her $8,400? What happened with her $8,000?
She would get paid. She would give me some of her money, not all of it. She gave me some of her money. That's true.
Well, how much did she give you?
I couldn't be exactly sure, but you know, she's telling. She gave me some of her money, but I mean, it would cost $600 to $800 every time she wanted to go visit her kids, hotel, food. She'd go shopping all the time.
So it would be a fair statement that you commingled your funds.
That's correct.
Is that a fair
Yes, ma'am.
statement? And you're not married.
That's correct.
No, he's divorced as of yesterday.
Well, but you're not married now.
No, ma'am.
You folks cannot expect to come to court and have somebody else unravel these very intricate financial woes that you managed to get yourself into. And what I said at the start of this case was, you're 2 people, you started a relationship, it didn't work out, why can't you just put a period and move on? You clearly spent money during that 3-month period.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know whether you went to visit your children like he says you did. And he has no proof of what you spent. So I would be doing a guest job, and I don't do guest jobs.
Your Honor, the day that he kicked me out, told me to get the F out, I left walking, and I went without a dime, without any clothes but what I had on my back.
Just a second.
strange man picked me up on the side of the road and...
Listen to me. You don't get compensated for that. You've had an on-again, off-again with this man clearly for a long time.
And he's the one that's been the one that's made the money off of it because I don't have a dime because he has it all.
Next time you should know better.
I've also sent her money when she needed it. She called me, asked me. I've got money grants where I sent her money.
Let me say.
So, I mean, it's not like she... And this is in addition to that $600 she took. Plus, I just gave her $2,900 just a few days ago.
On the 1st of October of this year, did he send you $200?
Yes, ma'am.
What for?
For me to... I had my children that weekend. My son had a paintball competition.
And you called him and asked him for money and he sent it?
No, I didn't call him. He called me.
So he called you when you said you needed money?
No, I didn't. He asked me if I needed any money.
Fine. So he sent you $200 on the 1st. Then I have another transfer here to you in September.
Mm-hmm.
The end of September for another $300. What was that for?
For just basic living expenses because I went there without a dime.
He's not responsible for you.
No, he's not. He
He's
never
not
has
responsible.
been.
He's not a. He doesn't sound like a cad to me.
Well,
did he give you? Did he give you other? Did he give you other money just last week?
No.
Are you lying to me?
No, I'm not. I have no reason to lie about it.
Well, I think you do. In any event, I'm going to cut the following order. Mr. Pritchard, listen to me, sir. You're going to part with that great necklace. You're going to give it back to her within 5 days, and she's going to part with the rings. You have one that you're wearing now?
That's the only one that I have.
Where's the other one?
He has it.
Take the ring off. Give it to Bird.
There's other things that you're not hearing that makes him not sound like such a cad. That's not it that I couldn't sue him for here. From where he borrowed $5,000 from me, and he sold the truck that he had gotten a loan on, and I've not got that. I got $600 of that, which I have the paperwork in my purse.
Mr. Pritchard, you want her son to have this necklace or you want it back?
No, Jeremy can have it.
Give it back to her. You're to get the engagement necklace back to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Keep it simple. That's all.
As far as that excuse, you may step out.
I don't think that it's right that a man can keep everything he earned.
Didn't go quite like I thought, but I believe she was fair.
He wasn't working, and there was no money, and I had to make a living.
We're both kind of hard-headed, I guess.
Matter of Haddon versus McCallum. Step forward, please.
25-year-old retail manager Cynthia Haddon is suing ex-roommate, 23-year-old ticket broker Andrew McCallum for breaking their lease. Andrew says he broke the lease because Cynthia is unstable.
Miss Haddon, the defendant was your roommate, according to your complaint. You claim that he moved out in the middle of the month of September 2001, owing you some rent and bills, and he also took some property of yours. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant said he's all paid up. When did he move in with you?
We moved in.
You moved in together?
Together.
And you were just friends?
Yes.
You signed a lease?
Yes, we have a lease that we shared.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Our month, actually, Your Honor, begins on September 15th.
It's beginning the 15th of each month?
Absolutely.
And you moved out on September 16th, is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
When
Moved
did you
out on September 15th.
Okay. So you signed this lease, sir, is that right?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
And the lease requires that you give 30 days written notice to the landlord.
Okay.
May I see that, please?
I actually, I had spoke with our manager of the apartment complex, and basically I explained my situation.
Don't tell me what you explained to the manager of your apartment complex, sir, because it says that no oral notice is acceptable.
Okay.
Okay. Did you move out subsequently?
No, Your Honor. I've maintained the apartment. I've stayed there.
Okay. Do you have a new roommate?
Yes, as of October 15th, I have a new roommate.
Okay. And how much was your share of the rent?
My share of the rent was $400, Your Honor.
Actually, Your Honor, we had an agreement beginning in the end of August. Andrew and I had a conversation where I asked him, since his girlfriend was moving in, if he could actually split the cost of the rent halfway down the middle, and he said not a problem. So that would be $425 apiece.
Well, did he pay half the rent in August?
No, beginning September's rent.
Oh, forget it. Then he moved out.
Yeah, then he moved out.
Then he moved
exactly.
out. So he owes you $400 for September's rent. So you have to give a $400.
And then-
Now, what about utility bills, etc.?
I have the Edison bill, which was not the month for Andrew, but the past due balance of $87.79, which reflects the month before that, was the month that he was there.
Did you pay that bill?
Right here, Your Honor.
What's the date on it?
The date on it is 9/15. I actually wrote this check. I post-dated it. I wrote it on the 13th. Your
Was it
Honor.
cashed?
Was it cashed? Yeah. Sitting right
It's
here. I
cashed.
got it from my
May I
statement.
see it?
It was written to Southern California Edison.
Yes, Your Honor, that was also for the month of August's bill. We were in mid-cycle when he moved.
Well, I don't know that, madam. You don't have the bill. He has a check for $191.70 dated 9/15/01.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have that bill that he paid, actually, and it shows the dates on there, right here.
$8/2 to $8/31.
Yes, Your Honor. He moved out on September 15th.
Oh, stop it. Stop annoying me with petty stuff. He doesn't owe you $87 for 15 days.
I called the...
He doesn't owe you $87 for 15 days. What else?
I also have a copy of the cable bill in the amount of $71.77.
For what period of time?
It was actually for the period of 9/22 to 10/21.
He wasn't even there to watch cable. Next.
I loaned him my television antenna in his room for his television, and he took that with him.
Did you take an antenna?
No, ma'am.
What else?
He also took several items from me, ranging from CDs to Nintendo games.
CDs. How many CDs did he take?
Tell me right now.
I can't believe I went to law school for this. What CDs did he take from you?
I have a Creed CD, a Sugar Ray CD, Alanis Morissette CD, and an Eminem CD.
Nope.
Do you have those CDs?
I have Creed. I purchased on my own. I probably can find the receipt if I wanted. I don't own any of the other ones. So, Your Honor, the answer is no.
What else?
Also a 007 Nintendo 64 video game.
You have something to say. You have the Nintendo game?
That's my game. I have the credit card receipt at home for that game.
She says it's hers. You say it's yours. How am I supposed to figure
There
that
were
out?
two. He had one of his own, and I
Yeah,
had
we
one.
left one there, and I took mine.
Also, Your Honor, on September 16th, I went and saw him there removing his stuff from the property. He had with him my belongings, which was a television cart stand. I saw it immediately and knew it was mine, and I took it back, as well as a CD tower rack. I noticed that, and he gave it back. And I also had realized that my Nintendo 64 controller was gone, and I asked him for it, and he gave that back.
Why did you pack up those items that weren't yours?
Okay. The CD tower rack she had given to me in the month of March because I needed another rack for my CDs.
Now, what about the other stuff?
The Nintendo controllers, it was pretty much a foul-up. I have a total of 5 controllers that I bought myself. I do have receipts for because my other controllers had been faulty.
So it was
I
a
bought new
mistake?
ones. It was just an honest mistake.
Okay, what
So
about
I handed it
the
right
TV
back with a smile
stand?
on my face.
TV stand?
I didn't even have a clue about that.
Well, you took it.
Huh?
You took it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a mistake.
It was a mistake, Your Honor.
He owes you $400 for his share of the rent. He didn't give proper notice. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She would go into some different fits of rage, and she would think they'd be okay because she came out of them.
That is absolutely untrue.
She would throw stuff.
He actually BS's people for a living, so why not BS people around you that you live with?
I'm just glad it's over.
Be wary of people.
Donald Allen are suing their son, 23-year-old electrician Daniel Allen, and his wife Trista for loans they made after Daniel got out of jail. Daniel says the money was never a loan.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 259 on the calendar in the matter of Allen versus Allen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Allen, the defendants are your son and daughter-in-law. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And is your claim that they owe you jointly a substantial amount of money, both from loans and from a cell phone bill that they managed to creep up to the thousands? Mr. Allen, you were in jail. When?
The first time for 4 years, and then just this past November till this year.
You served 4 years in state's prison?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
From 97 until September of last year, 2000.
September of 2000. What were you convicted of, sir?
Arson, 451C,
What did you burn down?
condemned apartment complex.
Then you were arrested again?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
A parole violation.
What was the nature of the violation?
A threat to harass another and leaving the county without a pass.
Who did you harass?
A former employer, supposedly.
Is the complaint of your parents that when you got out of jail, I believe the first time in the year 2000, you needed some money, and they helped you with a series of loans. How much did you give your son when he got out of jail the first time in 2000?
About $1,400.
How do you have that broken down?
$65 in uniforms, $60 for gas, and what he told me was birth control pills, $150 cash for expenses. He told me they needed money for food. We gave him $100. And then he switched jobs after he got arrested the second time, and he needed $60 for steel-toed shoes this time. We gave him $450 for rent while they were still living in their old apartment, $15 for DMV fees that he conveniently didn't have the day he had to go to the DMV, $85 for gas, usually, $20 here, $40 here, $200 for carpet for their rental, and $150 cash for miscellaneous expenses. And when we were on vacation in July, he called us and said he needed $80 to make his car payment. So we gave him that.
Miss Allen, did you have a conversation with your son with regard to paying you back this money?
Several times. It was always going to be paid back on payday, when they could get it or when he got paid from a separate job that he was doing. Each time the money just disappeared.
Well, but you kept giving him money, Miss Allen.
Well, because every time I asked him for money, he hinted that I was taking food out of my grandchildren's mouths.
So despite the fact that he didn't pay you back any of this money, week after week, month after month, he would ask you for more, $15, $100, $85, and you would continue to give it to him.
He did pay back some money. He did. He gave my husband $100 at the mall one day, $40 here, $20 here, a total of $435. So
Well,
just enough to keep me doling it out, I guess.
So what's the total of what you say he owes you now, without the phone bill?
$1,415.
And did you keep records of that money at the time that you actually gave him the money, or did you recap in your head at some later time?
I wrote it down in my, I have an address book. I just wrote it down how much I gave him, but I didn't write dates or anything. I just wrote it down so I could keep track, so when I said, hey, you owe me this much money, I would at least know how much.
Okay. Now tell me about the telephone bill.
He had some problems, and he said that his wife would feel a lot better if she had a way to get a hold of him, which, knowing his track record, that was a good idea. She needed a way to get a hold of him. So he asked me if I would get a cell phone in my name. I already had one, and my husband and I both have cell phones, and he said he would pay the monthly bill on that.
And did he do that?
He paid one bill of $144 because the phone got disconnected, and I just wasn't going to pay it anymore.
How much is still owed on his bill?
It totals $2,008.05. And to date on both the cell phone and the loan, he's only paid $435.
I hear you.
There's a lot to be told, Your Honor. We'll start with the loans, the miscellaneous loans. When I came home, my wife was working between 40 and 60 hours a week and making over $2,000 a month. We didn't borrow money from her when I first came home the first time. We had no need to borrow money from her. I had $200 gate money substantial amount of money for me to have to be home and find a job and get work. I remember her offering to pay for uniforms. I've never once, there's a lot of things in her list of loans that she said, as for example, for rent for the new house or carpet for the new house. We moved out less than a mile from her house to where she could be closer to the grandkids. It was kind of like a helping thing. I had to get away from the place where I was, so she helped us out. It was her friends we rented the house from.
Is what you're saying, Mr. Allen, that you didn't take this money from your mother?
No, I didn't call her and say, Mom, I need money, please. You're taking food out of my kid's mouth. I would never say that to her.
That's not what I asked you. What I asked you was, are you telling me that your mother is lying when she says that she gave you, over a period of time, $1,415 in small amounts for a variety of things? Shoes, uniforms, gas money, a month's rent, money for carpeting. Are you telling me that she's lying when she's telling me that?
I'm not saying she's lying about those things, but as for her to say that she loaned it to us and said, okay, you'll give it back to me, the agreement was, here you go. It wasn't, Mom, I need money, I'll give it back to you on Friday when I get paid. Mom,
well, how would she know that you needed money?
We would be talking. You see, my mom keeps everything
No, listen
close.
to me. how would you know that you needed money? How would you know, for instance, that you needed money for the DMV and that you didn't have it?
She was with me when we went to the DMV. She was with me. I went to go pull out money. My wife had the check. She said, oh, I'll take care of it. I was driving her around that day. Her car was in the shop. It was like gas money. I mean, this is how she works. She'll say, I'll take care of that, and then 5 days later when she's angry at you, she'll try to sue you for it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Roberta and Donald Allen say their son, Daniel Allen, owes for loans they made after he got out of jail. The Allens say Daniel served 4 years on an arson conviction.
Let's go to the phone bill.
We can talk about the phone bill.
We could.
The phone bill.
I think that right now is the appropriate time.
Back in November, me and my wife tried to set up a cell phone, and they wanted to, because we had a bankruptcy, they wanted a $1,000 deposit.
So she wasn't doing so well in her job.
No, we had a bankruptcy 3 years previously. It was just something, our credit was messed up. It had nothing to do with, us not having money, but they wanted to deposit a high one. I was talking to my mom about a cell phone. My mom said, hey, I can get one on my account. It won't cost you guys anything. You just give me the $20 for the phone, $40 a month for 500 local, whatever the minutes were. It's like 2,000 minutes a month. We said, yeah, sure, let's do that. That'll help out great. I was incarcerated 3 weeks after we had the phone. I went back for the second time for the threat to harass. My wife, who was handling everything by herself and didn't have an extra income now that I was gone again, she called my mom and said, hey, my mom would call and say, hey, the phone's due, and you can ask her. She said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll handle it until you guys get back on your feet, and that's exact words. I even called my mom from jail and said, hey, Mom, I don't know what you want to do with the phone. You want to take it back? It'll cost me more money to take the phone back.
Where do you get $2,008 in telephone calls?
We've never seen a bill.
Can I see the bill?
These are the front pages to the bills, and I've given him several bills, which he subsequently tore up because he didn't want his wife to see what phone calls were on him. I have the complete...
No, I want the bills with what calls were made. The last bill I have here indicates $802.15, which is the total balance.
That's a $150 shut-off fee, $360-some for the last
No, I'm just
bill.
saying, you say, listen to me, Miss Allen, you say he owes you $2,008 for the phone bill. The last bill that I have here is $802.15.
I've been paying the bill.
Are you telling me because you made some payments?
I made a lot of payments, yeah.
How many payments did you make on this phone bill?
We made three, one of $250 and one of $100, and then some minor ones in between that. But those were all without seeing anything but the first bill.
Who lives in Lancaster?
Several people.
Your friends?
Yeah,
relatives?
I don't know how many different people.
What's Diamond Bar?
A place in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
I don't know what's down there. I don't know who exactly those numbers are.
How many children do you have?
2 and 1 on the way.
I gather from looking at these papers that your parents don't see your children anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is that?
My mother has alienated most of our family. Other siblings don't speak with her, and then we go to my children. We went to Vegas one weekend. It's just numerous things. I guess my wife can explain it better than that. It was more both of our decision.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Basically, it's just that she doesn't recognize us as parents. We'll ask her not to do something, and it's constantly going over the line that's set.
Give me an example.
It started when they were planning their trip to Ohio, and she told Theo in front of my 3-year-old, they're 3 and 5, she told the 5-year-old, because that's her favorite, she's made that very clear, that he would be going on her trip with her to Ohio for like 3 weeks was the plan. This was before she ever talked to me or my husband. I came to pick them up because they had spent the night. I think my son said something like, I get to go on an airplane, and I was like, what? And they said, oh yeah, we think it's a good idea for him to come to Ohio with us for our vacation, and went on. Well, they had already said this to my kids. You don't discuss something with a 5-year-old before you make sure it's
You're
okay.
absolutely right.
And then from there, I mean, other things have happened.
Was that recently?
Yeah, she just went in...
June, beginning of July was their trip,
But
and
I
it
mean-
was before that it was discussed.
The situation directly before they left, I mean, she told them, when the fare comes, I'm going to take him on, I'm going to take him to a glider ride. And we told them, no, you're not going to a glider ride. We were sitting, Theo came and said, I'm going on an airplane, a glider ride. And we were like, no, that's not going to happen.
And that was
your wife explained it much better than you did. Did you say that to your 5-year-old, that you were going to take him on a trip?
We were talking about going on our trip. He said he wanted to go. He wanted to know how we were getting there, what we were going to do, and he just was planning on going. And they told him no, it worked out. They called us every day while we were on vacation. Everything was just fine.
There was the blow up about please don't say these things to him before you talk to me or Danny and know what our answer is. Okay, the glider thing, that was for her birthday. She wanted to take a glider trip, and she wanted her grandson to be with her. Again, she told him, and she said, because when we picked him up, that she said, I told Theo that he will be going on the glider with me for my birthday. We said, hi, we're the parents. Could you try to talk to us about these things before you discuss it with Theo? 5 minutes after that, she said, oh, fine then, I'll just take you up in a helicopter ride at the fair. Right in front of us without, again, saying anything. I think this all started, all the lawsuits and everything, after we went to Vegas. She has 5 or 6 foster kids, and it's a fun thing for the kids to go and spend the night in the tent in the backyard once in a while. Thursday night they called and asked, can Theo and Brian stay in the tent? They're going to spend the night in the tent tonight. We said, okay, sure, fine. We had already planned for them to watch the boys that weekend when we went to Vegas. I came home, my son comes home and says that he ended up spending, okay, obviously he spent Thursday with our permission, Friday, Saturday night also in the tent. I know with 6 kids, my 5-year-old was in the tent all weekend long. He didn't get sleep. He fell asleep within 10 minutes of being home. That upset me.
Just a minute. Were you in Vegas?
Yes, I was.
Did you have a good time?
Yes, I did.
If you were in Vegas and had a good time, when you came home, you have 2 kids?
Yes.
Nobody was in a cast. Nobody had gone for surgery. Right? Shh. Listen.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Believe me, been there, done that on both sides. Not very hard.
Your Honor, excuse me. Okay.
You have to respect the fact that they're the parents. You, on the other hand, have to understand that if you ask somebody to do you a favor and take care of your children so that you can go on vacation, you relinquish a certain amount of parental authority. So if she wants him to sleep in a tent, if she wants him to sleep on top of a bunk bed, then you just suck it up and say, I had a great 3 days, and the next time, if you don't like the sleeping arrangements, stay home. I guarantee you that once you have the 3rd, it's going to be very hard to get somebody to watch 3 children while you go to Vegas. 3 children being babysat for by somebody who cares for them. I don't care which one is her favorite if she's got one. It doesn't make any difference. Who cares for them? Not a stranger. Grandparents spoil their grandchildren. It's one of the pleasures. Parents like to say, I'm in charge. Listen to me. And you're right. You're in charge. You have the right to make the big decisions if they're going to go on a trip. And you're absolutely right. Before Grandma says you want to come to Ohio with us, she shouldn't say anything. She should just say, we have to talk to your folks about that. And just leave it. Go on to something else. Get his mind off it. And then come and say, I'd really like to take him on a trip. Would it be all right with you? You're absolutely right. I'm not faulting you. But sometimes things happen, and you don't, just because they're grandparents, not that they're perfect. So it may not have come out just the way you thought it came out. The saddest part is you are taking away your children's right to enjoy the widest possible circle of love and affection that they can. And that's from their grandparents, as well as you.
I understand that, Your Honor.
So you shouldn't do it.
But my growing up and my family's growing up with my mother and my father has been totally twisted since we were young.
Then what'd you let him babysit for your children
okay,
for?
But
No, you answered my question.
Because, I was still in the stage of, mommy's, it was a convenience, and
No,
mommy's
it's
still
a
there.
convenience.
Okay, and then...
So if you say your mother's twisted and your father's twisted, you wouldn't leave them alone with the 2 children that you like.
That's where we're at right now, and that's why these lawsuits came up, and I have a tape that'll show you, and I have a witness outside that'll come in here and state to you with the email she sends them one day, let me give you something, the next day I'm gonna hang your butt in court. And my witness is outside, and he's...
Not interested.
Okay.
Not interested. You had a big mouth, and somebody's used the phone this much. I mean, I have a cell phone. I don't even know the number. If I have to call the police on it, if somebody is mugging me, I use it. Otherwise, I'm like a normal person. I sit down near a phone, I make a phone call. Right? If you want to sit on the phone for hours and hours and hours and hours, then you got to pay for that. And if your mother made these little loans to you, she says they're little bits of loans to you. I have a feeling some of them are loans and some of them are not. When you give a child $15, you give a child $20, and you keep doing it over the course of time, then you don't say, well, it was really a loan, and you don't loan your child $15. Did you ever loan your child $15?
Your Honor?
I've never loaned my children anything.
Right. So, right. Well, That's true. And I can understand you saying to your daughter-in-law at some point, you worry about it when he gets out of jail because you felt maybe a little bit guilty, a little bit responsible for the children, for their welfare if he wasn't around, so you helped out a little bit. Miss Allen, that's what parents do.
Right.
The saddest thing that I find here is that you're not seeing your grandchildren, and that's the wrong thing to happen.
She won't.
It's not just the two things that we've mentioned. As long as you do everything that she wants you to do or she's happy, then everything's fine. Just like, I mean, we've been in many arguments. The phone's okay until we get in an argument, then she mentions it. We say we want to see the bill. It doesn't happen. And then we get over the argument and everything's fine for a little while.
We've offered her the phone back as soon as we offer it back.
But when it's a big blow up,
Do you understand why you're here, though?
The cell phone.
No.
We could be here because we filed for a restraining order.
You're here because she can't see her grandchildren. That's why you're here. That's the only reason that you're here, is because you say this 5-year-old is her favorite.
But it's a pattern. She's also got a lawsuit against our brother-in-law. And
She's
she can't,
suing everybody.
It's not
Your
about
Honor,
not seeing that
They
grandchild.
both filed for restraining orders against me, which neither one of them showed up for in court after I paid an attorney. They owe me $500 for lawyer fees.
Listen, I just said to your son and daughter-in-law that the reason you were here and the reason you were angry is because you aren't seeing your grandchildren. That doesn't mean that I don't find that they owe you some money. I think that they do owe you some money. But I also think that you have to grow up a little bit. And if you want to avail yourself of babysitting services, and if they use Huggies instead of Pampers, and if they don't give them a tubby every night like you would, you just have to blink your eyes and say it's part of the price you pay for going away on vacation.
I understand.
That's it. So if you can come to terms with each other, fine. And if what you're doing is being very angry with each other, then I can't do anything about that. And then, anyway, you owe them $2,200. That includes some of the phone bills, some of the loans. I wish I got smarter and started keeping track of what my kids owe me. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope they think about what she said about the grandchildren.
If it was a good thing for them to be there, then I would let them see her, and it's not. It's not about a game, about being mad. I wouldn't do that to my kids.
They won't let me see my grandsons. They're two beautiful little boys. I don't know why they're doing this.
I just want her out of my life.
Want her to leave us.
Parties, please step forward.
Diamond Thomas and Rumby Williams are suing Rumby's former friend, Shamia Gilmore, for a deposit and the costs of a brunch.
Diamond, this is your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you were planning a baby shower?
It was actually a sip and see for her.
What is that?
So it's like family and friends weren't allowed to really come to the hospital, so we decided to have a little event after the baby turned 6 weeks.
Okay, so that was October 22nd.
Yes.
You hired Miss Gilmore as the caterer of that little event. She quoted you a price of $500 to cater the event, and you gave her a $250 deposit.
Correct.
Then some stuff bothered you a little bit because you, according to what I read, you found some either text messages or whatever between the defendant and boyfriend, which you felt were a little too cozy by her.
Yes.
And you gave her a buzz and you sort of had it out with her. I don't want you to do this anymore, whatever. Anyway, you called her back and said, yes, I want you to do it. She ended up not doing this sip and see. And she finally called you and said, I'm not doing it. I don't like the attitude, I'm not doing it. And you said, fine, give me my $250 back. She said no. So you're suing her for not only your deposit back, $250, you did hire other people to cater the event.
No, we did it ourselves.
And you want her to pay $1,025 because you said that that's what it cost you over and above $250 plus the rest.
Yes.
Well, that you can't have. An offer and acceptance and a meeting of the minds. That was the contract. That doesn't have to be in writing.
We have a verbal agreement.
Diamond Thomas and Rumby Williams claim Rumby's former friend, Shamia Gilmore, owe for a deposit and the costs of a brunch.
Okay, you're going to tell me you chose not to do this shower? You chose not to do it.
Well, it's not that I didn't choose not to do it. It's she went to Twitter and threatened to beat butt, and I'm not doing business. If you want to fight me,
okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, I don't blame you. If she went to Twitter and said something nasty about you, then I wouldn't do her baby shower, sip and whatever they call it, I wouldn't do it either. Then you have to give her back her $250.
And I bought items for the brunch already. I offered the mimosa bar back and I offered $125 back. She wants the whole thing. If I already spent money out my pocket, there's no way you think I'm finna give you a whole $250. That doesn't make sense.
Well, just a second. Okay. Let me see what she wrote about you on Twitter.
And also, Judge.
Shh. So what you're saying is you actually made a purchase.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have proof of that purchase that you made?
I have the mimosa bar. I don't have it with me, but I didn't print anything off.
I don't even know what that is. Bar. What is a mimosa bar?
So it's where you put the mimosa glasses on it's a grass wall, but it has where you hang the cups up at on the wall with the mimosa glass, like the champagne flutes that you put on the wall. And then it has.
Have you used that before?
No, I bought one before, but I still have it brand new.
Just a second. Have you used it before? You're a caterer.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Quite a few.
How many?
2 hands, maybe 7 or 8 times.
Okay. And you buy a new one each time you use it?
Yes, ma'am. I let them keep it.
Just a second. You let them keep it. Well, now you can keep this one and use it next time.
Okay.
And I would like to say something about the $950 that she owes us. We gave her a deposit of $250, and she is claiming that we had made anything threatening towards her.
No, just a second.
And she canceled on us. And so I feel that we didn't have enough ample time to be able to find another caterer to do our event.
Well, that's too bad.
Can I ask why?
Absolutely, because you're entitled to your money back, but your contract was for her to do a party, which she ended up not doing.
Can we see the contract? Because I don't.
No, you haven't. We
don't have the contract.
Yeah, and
yes, you do. You had an agreement. She was going to do an event for you on October 22nd. You agreed for her to do the event for you on October 22nd. And you gave her a $250 deposit. That's a contract. It's an oral contract. You had an offer. You had an acceptance. That's a contract. An offer and acceptance and a meeting of the minds. She was going to do the event for $500. You paid her $250. That was the contract. That doesn't have to be in writing.
We have a verbal agreement via
that's what
Instagram.
That's what I just said.
So it is in writing.
Who cares?
Well, it was the point that how are we supposed to be compensated for everything that we had to do after she canceled?
Well, you have to grow up. You have a baby.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is this your only baby?
Yes.
Great, you have a baby. You have to grow up. I grew up so much, the old me would have beat out one of you. What is that?
I'm not sure.
Would you show this to the plaintiff? I'm just curious. She's going to give you back your $250 anyway. She chose not to do the event.
What?
I don't know what that is. I'm showing it to you. She gave me to show me something that you wrote.
You want me to read this?
No, I'm just asking
you what it is.
No, I'm just asking you if you were the author of that.
Yes.
And did you write it about?
It was just a general statement. It wasn't about anybody in particular. That's why I didn't
give that back.
Direct it. The name.
Very, very easy. Your baby nice? You happy with your baby?
Yes.
Very good. You have nothing to do with her anymore?
No.
Good. You have a mimosa wall? Use it for another event. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. We're done here. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I don't agree with the judge's decision.
I'm satisfied with the $250 and knowing that Shamia was wrong to keep our deposit after she canceled on us.
It's just a lot of mess. I won't do business with them ever again.
It is what it is. If she felt some type of way, that's on her.
I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing.
We just won't ever do business with her again because she is very unprofessional, just like the tweet said.
Do you know it's an exciting day when at my age you learn something new?
We learn a lot of new things here.
Learn a lot of new things here. So I've just about mastered the engagement party, the wedding, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, quinceañeras, christenings, baptisms, baby showers, if I haven't mentioned that, anniversary parties. But this is the first time I ever heard that expression, a sip and see.
Yeah, I think it's a new thing. I think COVID probably played a role in it, about people not wanting to have big parties or interact with large numbers of people, especially before giving birth with all the hospital requirements. So I like the idea. I've only been to 1 or 2, but the idea is you wait for your child to be about 6 weeks old, so they've been vaccinated, and
they're not vaccinated when you're 6.
Well, the first round of baby shots, and then they're able to see family and have a baby shower where the baby is included. So
I'll add it to my list.
3132, Eagle versus Ulrich. All parties, please step forward.
Tobias Eagle is suing his former friend, Joshua Ulrich, for cryptocurrency profits and equipment.
Mr. Ego, you and Mr. Ulrich were friends. You were traveling together for business. What kind of business were you in other than this cryptocurrency?
First off, we weren't friends initially. We were first business partners, and we worked together underneath my mentor through his company, Symbio. Yes.
Okay. And what kind of business?
It was teaching workforce development for, I guess you could say, people who needed skills so they can be prepared for engineering jobs.
Okay. You worked at the same company?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you decide to go into this business together?
Around January to February 2021.
This has to do with cryptocurrency?
Yes.
Okay. This cryptocurrency business that you went into together, did you form a company or an LLC?
He had already had a company established. I was doing it more as a recreation, but...
So the answer is you and the defendant, when you wanted to go together into this business, did not form a separate company?
No.
So individually, it is your claim that you spent some $20,000 on equipment for this new company.
Yes.
And you were supposed to share whatever profits there were in this new company. And quite frankly, I know nothing about cryptocurrency. I am of the Charlie Munger school of cryptocurrency. I think it's all about the emperor's new clothes. And unless I can feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it, or bite on it, it doesn't exist. So I want you to know that's where I'm starting.
Yes.
Okay? So you're going to explain to me what the business was that you were doing with him that involved buying $20,000 worth of equipment, which you now say is in his possession that you want back.
Yes.
Cryptocurrency.
Okay. He mentioned that he knew how to mine cryptocurrency.
Okay.
That's how we
now
use it.
I understand that those are the words that you use. Where is the mine?
May I explain cryptocurrency to you a little more too, Your Honor?
Oh, I'd love to hear you.
Okay, sorry. Mining is just a term for generating profits from cryptocurrency. There is no physical mine, as you may already be aware. It's not like mining gold.
Yes, it's not like anything. It's like the emperor's new clothes.
Yes, ma'am. But essentially, cryptocurrency...
That's why it collapsed.
Yes. Cryptocurrency mining is just...
You know that it collapsed.
Oh, yes, it collapsed.
Everybody knows that it collapsed.
Yes, ma'am.
Charlie Munger predicted that a long time ago.
Yes, ma'am. But essentially...
You know that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So what you were involved in is a shill game of Emperor's New Clothes, which would have involved all of your investors. Who was it that created cryptocurrency? The Winklevoss?
I don't know who created cryptocurrency.
Brothers? I don't know. Not sure. In any event, somebody had a vivid imagination.
Yes, ma'am. But all crypto is we essentially use our computer resources, specifically a piece called a graphics card that is really good at solving equations. We essentially solve equations for money. That's really all mining is. And
You
so we
solve
generate revenue.
equations for money.
Yes, ma'am.
What equations?
I don't know the specific equations. Essentially, the equations are so complex that when you solve them, you're rewarded for your time and the effort that your computer put into it, and that's where the revenue or mining comes from. We essentially validate transactions the same way you might want to make sure that a transaction on your bank statement is legitimate. And so we were paid for validating these transactions.
You sound like a really bright young man.
I appreciate that, Your Honor.
You really should find something important to do.
I've changed sectors since then, Your Honor.
You have equipment that he paid for?
No, Your Honor. I would actually like to
Just
get
a
in.
second. I'm
Yes,
just
ma'am.
asking a question. I thought maybe we could resolve this. Show me what equipment you purchased, sir, the receipts for it, and tell me where it is.
And so we're not here specifically for the GPUs that he claimed.
The what?
GPUs, graphic cards.
Just a second. Don't say anything to me, sir. You have the counterclaim for equipment.
I have it for equipment and cryptocurrency assets.
I'm not bothering.
Tobias Eagle claims his former friend, Joshua Ulrich, owes for cryptocurrency profits and equipment.
I contributed $20,000 in equipment, and by the first quarter of 2021, I am suing the defendant, Joshua Ehrlich, for cryptocurrency profits and return or value of equipment.
Yes.
I'm not concerned about cryptocurrency profits, because I think cryptocurrency is a whole lot of who shot John. And the only ones that probably got skunked are any investors that you put into cryptocurrency.
Well, it still has value, so.
Well, you know something? You tell that to all the people who lost billions in the last 2 weeks. Would you mind just showing me the equipment that you purchased and receipts for it. I didn't ask you for anything.
Yes, Your Honor.
Equipment that you purchased. Okie dokie.
And so for this equipment, it was purchased through an auctioning site. And so they only have a year delay, and then that was the only information I was able to receive from them.
That's not helpful to me, sir. That's not helpful to me at all. I can't, what am I supposed to do with this?
That's just showing that I have proof that I purchased the equipment.
It doesn't show me how much.
It wasn't how much I bought it for. It was because I plan on rebuying the equipment. And so that's just proof that I bought the equipment and that he has it.
That a workstation, a Hewlett-Packard server.
Yes. And I have a price
one
break.
small pallet of miscellaneous battery backups.
Yes. And there were specifically 12
and
of those.
2 Dell towers.
Yes.
Everything here are things that you want back from him.
Yes.
You have nothing in your house of these things.
Of those things, no. Those are in his barn right now.
Okay. Do you have these things?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever have this in your possession?
Yes, at one point I did have it in my possession.
When?
I had it in my possession when we were at a shared facility that was in Rancho Cordova.
Now you're not in a shared facility anymore.
Yes, ma'am. Since we were in a shared facility, I have never had the equipment in my possession. Furthermore, the equipment that he's talking about has nothing to do with this case. This case is primarily around the assets.
You have no idea how simple I'm going to make this, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
He has receipts for certain equipment.
I have receipts for more equipment, and I have a very
Just a second. You have a counterclaim for equipment.
I have it for equipment and cryptocurrency assets.
I'm not bothering with that.
Okay, no worries, Your Honor.
Yeah, no worries. No assets.
No
there are no
problem, Your Honor.
cryptocurrency assets. Where is the equipment that you claim he has that belongs to you?
Well, it was originally at his house when we moved out of the facility. I relocated all of it to his house. I have an inventory ran on the last day I was at his house, marked with the location, the equipment, and a lot of details. I would love to show it to you, Your Honor, if that's acceptable.
Just a second. Do you have...
On that list? No.
No. Do you have any
is-
equipment at your house?
Yes.
What equipment do you have at your house?
The graphics cards that he's talking about.
So you have the graphics cards that belong to him?
No, they belong to me mostly. So I bought most.
What do you mean that they belong to you mostly?
I bought most of the graphics cards. He put in some money for some equipment expenses. And for my estimates, which I wish I could have asked him, was around $3,000 that he put in. And I put around $15,000.
How do you expect a court to dissect this business mess that you've created?
I'm not here for the GPUs or graphics cards. That's why I completely left them out.
No, but he has a counterclaim.
And that's fine. He can present it.
I understand that.
Sorry.
How do you expect somebody to pick apart this legal morass that you have, except to say that all of the stuff should be sold?
Understood.
I don't have any value of what you claim you spent for this because there are no amounts on it.
Yeah,
well, that's a problem.
I do have documentation, Your Honor, of all of it, and it's labeled who purchased it and the amounts. In addition, the second page here has the totals that he was talking about, and the documentation pages are below.
Now, great. There isn't a lot of very expensive stuff that you paid for, Mr. Ulrich.
There's not too much, no.
No, there isn't too much expensive stuff here, right?
Yes,
you know, we have something for $24, something for $15. You paid for the little stuff, he paid for the big stuff.
Two things, Your Honor, that I would like to mention. First of all, he did not purchase $20,000 worth of assets. This is a highly inflated number. I can actually prove this.
Just a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Just a
No
second.
problem, Your Honor.
I'm not awarding him any money. Each of you will take back the things that you bought. You didn't have a formed company together. It's not a company asset. It belongs to each of you. You're not in business anymore.
Yes.
So all I have to know is what do you have at your house and what do you have at yours?
He has everything, including all the physical assets. The only thing that I have at my house, Your Honor, is, or it's actually on my computer, technically stored in a digital wallet. A digital wallet is the same thing as a regular wallet. This is just how we store cryptocurrency.
I don't want to care about that.
sorry.
I don't care
No problem,
about
Your
that.
Honor.
All I'm talking about is equipment.
I have no equipment at my house, Your Honor.
What equipment does he have in his house?
He has everything that's listed on that document that I gave you. And I actually do have proof that he has it because...
I'd like to see it.
So these are text messages from my roommate to his mother.
From who?
From my roommate. He was supposed to be here as a witness.
If he's not here, you can't show me texts from him.
He wasn't able to make
Well, you can't prove something to me via hearsay from a witness who's not here.
It's not hearsay. It's just text messages that he gave.
That's
from his
hearsay. by a person not here. You know, I actually don't think that you're ready to have this case tried. I can't help you. You say you don't have anything in your house. You can't tell me how much the item cost. If he said he doesn't have anything in his house, should I rule that he has to give it back to you? And he said, I don't have it. I can fix a dollar amount, but I can't do that unless you have what you paid for it.
I have documentation here that at the value at which I had to pay to buy it back. Because since it was through an auctioning site, I don't remember. I had several auctions I bought most of that equipment from.
You can show me a bank statement where you paid money to an auction house. I just want to see an amount that you paid to the auction house.
I don't have that on me currently.
Okay.
Well,
okay. Your case is dismissed without prejudice. Go back to the courts where you originally came from and see if they can help you any more than I'm willing to. Can't help you until you get your documentation together, sir. You're the plaintiff in this case. I can't award. You don't have anything if you don't have what you paid for the equipment.
But
he said he doesn't have the equipment.
And he's lying.
It may be, and the proof that you have is inadmissible here because your friend who authored those texts is not here. The case is dismissed without prejudice. Go back to the court where you started it.
Ramona Simpson is suing her ex-boyfriend's brother, Cleefers McCowan Jr., for personal property and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2143, Simpsons versus McCowan Jr.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Simpson, you lived with Mr. McGowan for, looks like 7 years is what you said.
Yes, ma'am. It was off and on.
What do you mean off and on?
Well, I had another residence as well.
Okay.
And
it's going to get more complicated, I see, than less complicated. You lived off and on, according to you, with the defendant's brother, who is now deceased. Yeah. It is your claim at one point in your papers that you and the defendant's brother were married.
Yes, ma'am.
He passed away.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that the defendant owes you money. He was the executor of the estate, and he owes you money for property that he took from the house and for filing a false police report against you, I assume indicating that you took things from the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. McGowan says that you and his brother were never married, while he indicates in his papers there might have been some sort of ceremony of marriage.
Yes.
That his brother somehow must have told him that he never filed the marriage license, so the marriage was never valid.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's go to that for a moment.
Yeah.
Yes, it's sort of curious and takes me back to law school days. And believe me, that really tests my memory. Were you at the ceremony where your brother married the plaintiff?
No, ma'am, I was not.
When did your brother tell you that there was a marriage ceremony?
I probably heard it just throughout life.
You mean throughout life for how long?
From the time that he had any dealings with her.
So about 7 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked your brother whether he was married?
Yes.
How long ago was this?
I would say 4 years ago.
Okay, so 4 years ago, you say to your brother, I understand that you, what's your first name?
Mona.
Mona got married.
Well, so he gave me an insurance document, and I was like, wow, what's going on? What about all this?
He gave you an insurance document that said what?
From the VA indicating that I was going to be the person that gets the money upon if he demise.
If he died,
right? And
you had a VA insurance policy.
Yes, ma'am.
With you as the beneficiary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so he showed you the insurance policy.
Well, he sent it to me in the mail.
Okay,
and email or electronic. And so I said, wow, what's going on? So then I started to ask different questions, and he said, well, don't worry about that. We're not legally married.
No, you have to tell me. I said to him.
I said to him, so doesn't your wife
Isn't she the beneficiary?
I don't want to be involved in all this.
Right.
And he said, I am not married. We went through a ceremony, and you have 10 days to file the
marriage license.
The marriage license in Las Vegas.
Okay.
To solidify the marriage. And then he said, I never filed it. We are not married.
May I?
Just a second. Did your brother tell you that he had ever told Ms. Simpson that he never filed the marriage license?
No, we never had that conversation.
Okay, well, because you say in your answer, sir, that my brother was too smart for that. He never mailed in the license.
Well, he told me because there was a problem between these two. And so we talked about that, and he said, no, I'm not married to her. And he said, you have to file the document, and I never filed the document. And I have a copy of that right here.
Miss Simpson,
Yes, ma'am.
tell me when this ceremony took place in Las Vegas.
April 2013.
Did you travel there with Mr. McGowan?
Yes, ma'am. We moved to Vegas together.
Who was at the ceremony?
It was no ceremony. What happened was I don't know what this is. What happened was we went to the Justice of the Peace. And the 10 days is not accurate.
No, don't
apologize.
Don't tell me.
We had 1 year to go to like a pastor or minister or something like that because we just went to the Justice of the Peace in Vegas. They give you a year to do it, whereas it's, I guess, with what I think the term is officiant or something. Officiant has to do it so you can become married permanently.
So you knew that you were not legally married?
Well, it was legal, but it would be official if you don't do another step within a year. And
I understand that, but you never did the other step.
We didn't, only because he was sick, ma'am.
I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if he was watching Yellowstone or because it doesn't matter why.
I respect that.
What? You can get hooked on that.
Oh, yeah.
I understand.
So
No,
I
and
don't care what the reason is. You knew that your marriage, because it wasn't confirmed, according to you, within a year that you weren't legally married.
Yes, ma'am. And
okay, just a second. That's all I want to know. That makes my life much easier. Because, Mr. McGowan, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Under what you told me, under the events that you told me, so you should have kept your mouth shut.
No, it's okay.
No.
It's going to be okay in the end. It's going to make a lot of sense in the end.
No, I understand that it's going to make a lot of sense to me. We're going to follow the money. But I just want to tell you and the people who are watching this that when I thought about your answer, that you said your brother was too smart and didn't file the necessary document within 10 days, my view of that scenario was that she could still consider herself his wife. Because if he fraudulently, in an attempt to deceive her, didn't mail the marriage license in, she would be the beneficiary. I'm just letting you know that. You understand what I just said?
Yes, ma'am.
Because he committed a fraud on her. He would have committed a fraud, your brother, on her into leading her to believe that they were a married couple and they had the responsibilities and the benefits of a married couple. But she says she volunteered that she knew they weren't married.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to address that.
And it's okay.
Just a second. I know where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So Mr. McGowan, the person that you were involved in for a period of years, on and off, you had your own place, but he was ill for a certain period of time. Was your brother ill?
No, ma'am.
No. Just a second. He says no. You say he was ill for a great portion of that time. Shh. Just a second. For a great portion of that time. And that you were his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid as his caregiver by the government.
The VA, yes, ma'am.
By the VA, to be his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would be inconsistent with being his wife, to be his caregiver. Because if you're a wife, you don't get benefits from the VA. If you are a non-relative and caring for somebody who requires assistance, you may get assistance. And how much was the VA? Just answer my question.
Yes,
this is not my first rodeo.
Okay, I understand.
How much was the VA paying you a month to take care of, what was your brother's first name?
Marcus.
How much were you being paid to take care of Marcus? Because you say that one check you didn't get because of him. It's part of your lawsuit, so you know exactly how much you were paid.
Ma'am.
How much?
$2,057.55.
A month.
Yes,
and when
ma'am.
did you start collecting that?
2014.
Woo! You are a legal stranger, so you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered...
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife.
Ramona Simpson claims her ex-boyfriend's brother, Cleefers McCowan Jr., threw out her personal belongings. Cleefers is countersuing for damage and stolen property.
Okay, so there was a reason why you didn't continue to solemnize the marriage ceremony that you went through in 2013, because you started to collect $2,000 a month from the VA in 2014 that you couldn't have collected were you his wife. That's a yes.
No, it isn't, ma'am.
Oh.
Receiving the benefits from the VA, you have to be a family member. You have to be related to that person in order to get this stipend pay. It wasn't a regular VA payment, and it's for relatives. You have to be a relative for that veteran.
What are you getting?
Yes, it's true.
Just to check that,
Full
Sarah.
up stipend pay for VA, because we're both disabled veterans. It's not like I just had to do this. I loved him, and I cared for him, and he was sick the day I met him.
Just a minute, you both disabled veterans?
Well, my disability was not as crucial as his.
How much do you collect?
I very minimum, because
Which I asked a question. That's a very minimum.
Yes.
It's not a number.
Yes, it's $300 and some change. But the thing is, Your Honor, may I speak, please? He was sick from the day that I met him, and I was taking care of him prior for that. This was his idea, because he was familiar with the veterans and the system. This was his idea that we can receive funds, and it stayed right in the household. We were living together. It was stayed in the household, and that's okay with them.
I thought you told me a moment ago that you had your own place.
No, not then, ma'am. Not then, when we moved back from Vegas, because we stayed in Vegas for approximately 3 years. When we moved back from Vegas, he had purchase of home and everything, and it was supposed to be okay. We were going to be together. But he started living another alternate life, which he was very familiar with, because he's introduced him to so many people. I don't even care about that. I still continue to take care of Marcus. It was no longer a romantic situation.
Now you still continue. You had your own place.
I lived both places, because he needed me more there than he did when we was living together.
What kind of alternative lifestyle was he doing that he needed you there part-time?
He was seeing other people and stuff like that.
He was seeing women.
Pardon me?
He was seeing other women.
He was seeing other people, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he was seeing other people. But you, let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
But you continued to receive the $2,057. You knew you weren't married. That money was coming directly to you. It wasn't coming to him.
Well,
it was coming to you. At what address?
He was giving me a portion from his bank account, and then when we discontinued everything, there was nothing physical. Then I was receiving my full allotment at that point, but I was still taking care of him, taking him to the VA, taking him to the hospital.
Wait just a second. I don't care. Don't go like this and like this. He's a legal stranger to you, and you're getting $2,000 a month to take him to the VA.
Ma'am, he was not a legal stranger.
He was a legal stranger to you. Legal. He was not your mother, father, brother, sister, or husband.
Ma'am, he was a dear friend of me. He continued to be a friend, honestly.
Well,
and he knows that. We went to several places together.
I'm setting up for myself what is the actuality of the situation. Now, I understand that I was really not prepared for this scenario. I was prepared for somebody, quite frankly, Miss Simpson, who had been defrauded by his deceased brother into believing they were married. She took care of him when he was sick. And all of a sudden, now that he's deceased, his brother comes in, kicks her out of the house, and takes all of his property. That's the scenario. But now I understand that that is not the case, that you knew you weren't married, that for 8 years you collected $2,000 a month for taking him to the doctor's offices, to the vet, to taking care of him in the house, but you understood that he was seeing other people, that you didn't have an exclusive relationship. Now I understand it. And you did receive a certain benefit from that, because when you moved back from Vegas, you went to your own place because he was having an alternative life that had nothing to do with you. At that point, was the money going to his bank account or yours?
It was going to his bank account, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you say that he notified the government. Part of your lawsuit is for 1 month's check that you say, or 2 months that you didn't get. And you say you didn't get it because he notified the VA, or somebody notified the VA. I don't care who notified the VA. What I want to know is, with those checks immediately preceding Mr. McGowan's death, going into his bank account or yours that he had?
His. It was going into Marcus's bank account.
Okay, and he was giving you money from that bank account?
Prior to his death, yes, ma'am.
Right up to the time he got sick and died?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
and how much would he give you?
He would have given me $2,057. $2,000. All
right.
No,
okay,
you mean total?
No,
I'm sorry.
No, I get it. It was not what I thought, but I get it.
Ma'am, may I
please
say
money owed
something?
for the return of property. What property?
The property, which is my funds. I have jewelry that was missing and clothing that I never received because he kicked out his niece and boarded up the house.
Just a second. Was your brother taken to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
28th of August, 2021.
Okay.
He was nowhere to be found.
Just what?
He wasn't around.
Just a second.
I did that.
Just a second. Did you take him to the hospital?
I had his daughter to call an ambulance. I got to Marcus's house and I followed him to the hospital. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, well, you want to just answer my question? I actually understand the whole scenario. You understand that I do understand the money part. I get it. So when you say his daughter called the ambulance and you got over there from your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who do you live with there?
My daughter and my son.
And in whose name is the lease?
My daughter's, my son, and myself.
So all three are on the lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you had a lease at that address?
2017.
Okay, so we're talking about 5 years that you've had an alternative address. You have an answer for me?
There is a Veterans Affairs program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. It says $2,800 a month, but based on a fee schedule that can change. So the 2057 fits within the range.
And does it define family members?
It doesn't define the family caregiver, only that the VA may appoint someone who's part of the primary family caregivers to the veteran, but it doesn't identify who qualifies as a family caregiver.
As a family caregiver. And that's the act that you were under. But you were not a member of his family.
Yes, ma'am.
You were not a member of his family.
Well,
not a well. Not a well. This is not a well. You're living with your daughter, your son, on a lease since 2017. You know he's got an alternative lifestyle that has absolutely nothing to do with you. He was giving you the $2,000 a month. I don't know why. I don't even have to get into that.
But you were not that individual.
But you were not a family member. If this is for family,
it does go to the veteran to then give the family caregiver, though.
Okay, but you are a legal stranger to him. So you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, it's up to that. It's up to that individual, the veteran, and I know how the procedure goes. It's up to that individual. I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered.
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife. So if he filled out a form and
I'm okay with that, ma'am, because I could have.
Okay, so he had the right. You were never his wife. He had the right to board up the house, whichever it is, and you weren't living there for 5 years. You had a place. So if you had clothes there and your jewelry, what were your clothes and your jewelry there? If he was fooling around with other women, why would you leave your clothes and your jewelry in the house?
Okay, ma'am, the thing is, no one has came to the home as another woman in that home. I was always there. He has no proof or evidence that I was not there. So basically, I had their clothes there because I stayed there. I lived there.
Forget it. You were more than compensated with $2,000 a month. What's next? I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
Ramona Simpson is accusing defendant Cleefers McCowan Jr. of throwing out her personal belongings.
Okay. Do you have any of her property?
No, ma'am.
Did you dispose of any of her property?
I didn't. She had no property
Just
there.
a second. I don't believe she had any property there either. Anything of value.
And I did.
Okay.
Can I?
Excuse me.
I did find what the VA considers a caregiver. So if you're a spouse, son, daughter, parent, step-family member, or extended family member of a veteran, or if you live full-time with them, or if you're willing to live full-time with them if they designate you as the family caregiver.
So technically,
if you're willing to live with the veteran full-time, you could be qualified as a family caregiver, but it's up to the veteran to declare their own family
caregiver if you live there full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she stated if you were willing to, and I was always willing to.
Okay.
And because
good. I don't feel as if you were shortchanged, madam, at all. And I don't believe that you had anything of value in the house. So your case is dismissed. Now we're going to get to the second part of your claim. You say she took property from the house?
Yes, ma'am.
What property?
She took jewelry, guns.
What jewelry?
Chains, rings, cufflinks.
Show me. Show me. How am I going to figure that out? You have photographs of things?
Yes, I have some photographs here.
This is so sad.
It's so sad you have to put a period and end it. You had a good thing going for 9 years.
Ma'am, the money was paid in the arrears, first of all. So me not getting paid for, and this is really not a big issue to me, what he's saying, because they're all lies, and I'll tell you the truth.
Just say, I'm not saying anything, madam. All I'm saying is you have no case, because I don't believe that somebody who lived in a lifestyle, as you've described, as you've described to me, which is you have your own home, where you're on a lease since 2017, where you said to me he had an alternative lifestyle, but I still took him to his VA appointments. I took him, and I was his caregiver, but I lived with my daughter and my son. I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
But
Can I see?
I was staying with also friends, ma'am.
I've decided your case.
I respect that.
This is just what had happened to looking for everything that was taken in there.
I don't care. Who cares? What are you showing me? You showing me that the place is a mess, that somebody went through it?
I'm showing you what...
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. Prior to his death, when had you seen your brother last?
I had seen him about 5 days prior to that.
You live close by?
I was living in San Diego at the time, and he lived in Highland, which is 79 miles up the 15 freeway.
Okay, so 5 days prior. Prior to the 5 days prior that you saw your brother, when had you seen him before?
We see each other quite frequently. We have family barbecues, this, that, and the other. I'm retired. I go.
Okay, would you return these to him? These don't show me any jewelry.
Okay.
It shows me that the house looked like it was picked through.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
So quite frequently.
That's it. Did you get a VA benefit from your brother for his insurance?
From the life insurance policy.
Yeah, that's from the VA.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you receive?
$2,600.
Who paid for his funeral?
I did.
How much was that?
$1,100 or $1,200.
So you took some of the insurance money and paid for it?
Yes.
Did he have any other valuable asset?
He had quite a bit of stuff. It's in probate as we speak.
Oh, so this case is in probate
It's in probate right now as we speak.
Oh, great. So I don't have to deal with it. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
You know what? I have a lot of respect for the judge, but she didn't listen to me.
Well, I'm happy that the judge made the decision that she made.
He's a habitual liar.
Thief. My brother died, and within a half a day went over and burglarized the house.
This is something that he can laugh about, and he's going to go and tell the whole world that I'm still a liar. I'm still a this, that, and the other.
There is quite a bit of items that belong to me that this person stole.
That you can love someone and not be married to them. You can help someone and not be married to them and making love to them. I was genuinely there to help Marcus because I love Marcus.
The devil. You don't want the devil, the devil.
He barred me from the funeral. I didn't fight it because the respect I have for his family and for Marcus. I could have went there. No. I said, you know what? I won't be there.
I hope that she crawls back in the rat hole she came out of and does whatever she does.
You know what was interesting in that case, Sarah? When I read the complaint and the answer, I had a whole different vision.
Me too.
Of what the arrangement was. And based upon what the defendant wrote in his answer, that his brother, with regard to the marriage, to his brother telling him, I'm too smart, I didn't mail in the papers.
Read like fraud a little bit.
Right.
But she was in on it. She knew. She didn't complete the steps.
She didn't complete the step for a different reason, but she knew
that they weren't legally married.
That they weren't legally married.
Which changes the whole game from a legal perspective.
Right. Certainly the fact that the case is currently in probate made my life a lot easier. Anyway, it should be a warning signal when you get married out there, folks, and you have a marriage license, because I performed enough weddings to know you have to seal it, sign it, put a stamp on it, and usually put it in the mail within 3 days of the ceremony. So brides and grooms, make sure you put it in the mail together, or watch the officiant put it in the mail.